Where are you in your whiskey journey? Still at the point where you've not got enough whiskey yet? Or have you passed that point of balance and you're deciding that perhaps you're already at a stage where you've got too much? How are you managing it? How are you staying on top of it? Let's hear from you, and I'll see you in a sec. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night to kick back and relax and spend a wee bit of time with your fellow whiskey folk, your fellow barflies, and enjoy a wee dram, or at least talking about a wee dram. But tonight, not just a wee dram, all the whiskey that we potentially have at our hands, either right now here today or in the future as we kind of walk along our wee whiskey path, our whiskey journey. Over time, whiskey has this ability to kind of get its claws into you. It really does. It's quite amazing. It means that you start to spend more on a bottle of spirit that you ever dreamt that you would. It means that you're looking for things that previously you've never heard of. And it means that you start to accumulate a collection. Maybe you call it your collection, maybe you call it your selection, or you just call it your whiskey. It doesn't really matter. That's not the point of tonight. The point is to try and reach out to the community and ask you how you perceive that selection of whiskies that you have. Where are you on your journey? Are you still at the point where you feel like you could do with having a wee bit more? Are you at a nice kind of point of balance, that Zen moment where you're just comfortable with it all? Unlikely, I know. Or do you perhaps, you're at the stage similar to me probably, where you're looking at it sometimes and thinking, wow, I'm never going to drink all of this. Have I got too much whiskey? And with that comes all the anxiety of managing it then. How do you manage open bottles versus closed? How do you store it? How do you display it? How do you look after the admin of it? How long do you keep the bottles open for? These are questions that I get week after week, and they're fascinating, and there's a discussion to be had around them. But there's no dogma here. Nobody's going to dictate. Certainly nobody's going to judge. Whether you've got 1 or 2 bottles of whiskey at home or whether you've got 100 or 200, it doesn't matter. Your opinions and sharing it with the community is very, very valid. That's what we want to hear about, how we perceive our whiskey, because there's no right way to do it, just like sipping a dram. There's no right way to enjoy your whiskey. So there's no right way to enjoy your collection. But there are considerations to be had, and there are questions that fly around regularly. How many can I keep open? Where and how do I store them? How long can they stay open for? And how many is a reasonable collection? All of these things we hope to be able to touch upon tonight. And I'm going to reach out to some folk in the community. I've reached out to the Glasgow Bottle Chasers against Scott and Seve, and also across the Atlantic to Gregor McWee as well. Doc was in earlier tonight, but he's having internet connection problems tonight over from Germany, and it would have been amazing to have some savvy insight from Doc as well, but he can join us another time. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to share his comments tonight. And as a special treat for those of you that are able to hang on to the end, we'll have another quiz from Menno. He's promised to be a wee bit less brutal, but I actually think that it was kind of fun to have that really, really extreme quiz from Menno. You know, most of the time the quiz can just be the regular Aquavitae quiz, but it's nice if we get Menno along now and again to challenge us, and that means I get to participate too. Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome all you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. I'll jump into the lounge and welcome some of you guys, and thank everybody for hanging out and supporting this wee event that we have every week. It's wonderful fun. I'm going to just scroll up and try and grab as many of the wee orange comments that I can. Anybody that's tagging me or trying to get a hold of my attention. Tom Scaramouche says in, good to see you, Tom. Hi, Roy. Kicking things off with Samatin Legacy. Haven't heard good things on here. Perfect gateway whiskey, 43% ABV as well. Spirit driven, but lovely and oaky and light. Always does a brilliant job and holds itself very well in a blind lineup, Tom. I wonder how you're getting on with it tonight. Teddy KGB is here. Good to see you, Teddy. Here, I'm not sure I'll manage to stay up for too long, but we'll catch on the replay as usual. Teddy, I'm very grateful to everybody that catches it on the replay. I know that the time zones and, you know, that it's the pub. It's meant to fit around your mood and your time. It's here for when you can join and participate. So, Teddy, if you're able to pick up the replay, I appreciate it. For those of you that do pick it up on the replay, be very grateful to the barflies, the people that support the channel and mean that it stays ad-free. It means that you don't need to sit through adverts when you're picking it up on the bounce. Jimmy Legacy here saying, I am deep into the whiskey. You are, Jimmy, and you've been in deep for a long, long time. And it's good to have you here as well, in deep with all of us too. Jerry Miller is saying, hello, Roy. Lee J. Brown, good evening all. Graham Fraser is saying, evening, Roy. Steve A is here. Good to see you, Steve. That depends on who's asking. I don't think I have enough. Most people would say, I've got way too much. That's right, but it's perspective. Somebody's 300 bottles is not enough yet. And to somebody else, 300 bottles is just far too much. But we all view it differently, and we're all after different things for different reasons. Everyone is saying, ahoy, malt mates. Gerben Blocker is here saying, good evening, Roy. Peter Box is here. Hello, Roy, and all the barflies. Good to see you, Gerben and Peter. The Whiskey Bowman Chris is here saying, good evening. Good to see you, Chris. Audioholic, yes, finally managed to be on live. And it's wonderful to welcome you live too. Arnie Tiger is here. Good to see you, Arnie. I hope you're keeping well, my friend. Hello, Roy. Marcus Kreitner in Austria is saying, good evening, Roy. Hope you're sat next to Christina, Marcus, and I hope you're doing quite well. Mike Moritz is saying, morning, Roy, just popping in for a quick visit. Work starting in 15 minutes. That's a shame, Mike. Hopefully you'll be able to pick up the chat on the replay, my friend. Robert Frederickson is here saying, hi, Roy, and all barflies. Long time since I could participate live, but tonight I'll try to be in till the end. Robert, make yourself comfortable. I will try and keep it neat tonight, but it's always tricky to do that. And I've kind of relaxed a wee bit about time. It's okay if it drifts beyond 2 hours and 2.5 and 3 hours because it's the pub. That's what it is. This isn't YouTube content that we're making here. This is a social hangout. This is a social thing. To help you if you're watching on the replay, if I've done my homework tonight, hopefully I've put timestamps in the description box so that you're able to skip ahead and get to the points that you really want to hear about. Richie Z is here. Always great to see you, Richie, my friend. Good to welcome you in. Hellswood is here. Fantastic. Helen, Yash Desai, Bruno Martins. Bruno Martins over in Portugal. Bruno? Yes, yeah, Portugal. Lisbon, I think. Peter Wilcox is saying, hello all. Surely you can never have too much, or am I just greedy? Cheers all. Well, Mark Twain famously said, didn't he, that too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough. So we could subscribe to Twain's philosophy there. Jimmy Legger saying the claws are giving me a lovely massage. That's the whiskey claws, of course. Actually is saying this is going to be the collection confessional. There is a wee element of that. There is a wee bit of a kind of, but as I said before we went live tonight to my guest, I said it's not a confessional because there's nothing to be really ashamed of. But it's maybe awareness and admitting where we are for a lot of us. For those of us that are still quite early on in our journey, it's still valuable because you at least pick up on a wee bit of wisdom. But I think we all have to go through our own experiences and apply it to our own personal situation. But we're all buying whiskey. And I'm going to guess that I think the majority would have to admit that we're probably buying a wee bit too much. I can use the channel as an excuse, but it would be an excuse, honestly. There are still numerous bottles in my collection that I didn't need, that I just simply wanted to have. Some of them I could justify for the channel, absolutely. Other ones, it could have been any number of any bottles for their purpose, but I chose to have them. And I think we all do that. We all have at least the temptation in front of us to collect too much whiskies. Ben Demon Hunter is here. Good to see you, Ben. Jed Smith is here. Evening, Roy. Looking forward to another great evening with all these wonderful folk. Jed, I've picked your name up a couple of times. I don't know how many times I've actually shouted you out, but I do see it popping up from time to time, and it's wonderful to welcome you back again. Ryan Sutherland is saying, hey, Roy, good to see you, Ryan. Gerben Blocker is saying, I have too much right now. So, yes, there is a wee bit of a confessional there. But again, Gerben, because you know that that's the case, you're armed better to make decisions in the future. Callum Muir is here, evening, Roy. I found I've got plenty of drinkers and I'm focused on special older bottles to add to the stash for future events and putting together tastings. Whisky Weekend Dram is here. Good to see my friend. That's Harrow. Hello, Aquavidi, just saying hi and might have to leave early. Don't worry about it, Harrow. It's here for you anytime that you can pick it up. Andrew Pierce is saying, just did a head count, 42 open and 19 unopened. Perhaps I need to try and slow down the opening, but just want to try them when they are delivered. Open bottle syndrome, Andrew. I've suffered from it for years. I still suffer from it now. I'll probably share a confession with you. I did a count, if I haven't done it, if I haven't shared it live already. I did a count a few weeks back because of a reorganization. I know how many bottles I've got open. And it's far too much for a single person. When before lockdown, I could share it. There was people coming to the house. It was getting poured. It was getting shared regularly. But it's just me now. And those open bottles are still there. Gavin is saying, Roy, looking forward to this one tonight. And Magic is saying, keep the quality, not the quantity. That's good wisdom. Easier said than done, no Magic. Ross Fudd is in. That's Thomas Elmer saying, afternoon, Roy. I'm still going to buy more, even though I have too many. So says the wife. That's the thing. Gary Carew is saying, buy less, spend more. I think that's the ultimate goal. I'm way off at the moment. Okay, somebody's bought me a dram, and I may have missed it. Anthony Dunn's bought me a dram. Hi, Roy, sipping on the red silky sample from a whiskey friend. Tastes better when it's shared. Have a lovely Thursday and weekend. Anthony, thank you very, very much as well. I've not tried that one, but I've heard lots of good things about the silkies. I hope you're enjoying it, my friend, whether it's on your own or with a friend. Thanks for your dram, Anthony. Cheers to you. And another wee dram from, two of them come in. Martin, oh my goodness, Martin, I'm going to do my best. Siman Jutak, there you go. That's my best effort. Martin, he's bought me a dram saying great to be here and give me a wee thumbs up. Martin, I hope, I know that I've not pronounced your name properly, but I did my best. Siman Jutak. Cheers, Martin. Thanks very much to you for your dram, and it's nice to welcome you here, my friend. Cheers. And also from Pete, he bought me a dram saying, cheers, malt mates from San Francisco. Wow, San Francisco. 2000, the year 2000, I was in San Francisco. Fabulous and fascinating place. Amazing stuff. Pete, thanks to you. Cheers for your dram. Cheers. Welcome, Pete. I'm actually sipping on a Queen Margot 8-year-old blend. Supermarket blend here. This was actually a dram. It was sent up to me as part of a blind challenge from Andrew Butler. AP Butler Andrew sent me along a few nice drams, and yes, I shared them with my patrons. I tried my best to blindly sip through them with no idea what I was sipping in front of me, and I didn't do too well. I did okay. I was just kind of stabbing in the dark, but he sent me an amazing selection. This is what's left of the Queen Margot. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram and said, I've found, since meeting all of you, that sharing my whiskey is just as much as smelling and tasting it. That's what the channel, Jimmy, that's amazing, because I think that we all know and we feel that. But back when I started the channel, I was founded on that. You know, it's not whiskey till it's shared and all that kind of thing. There's the idea that whiskey was at its absolutely most powerful when it was bringing people together. Now, of course, during lockdown, we've had to revert to technology and things to do that. And I was already doing that anyway, honestly, on the channel. But whether it's over a Zoom, whether it's over a broadcast, whether it's over connecting people through digital communities or in real life, whiskey has a way of bringing people together, and I'll always be very, very grateful for it. And Jimmy, I'll raise a wee glass to your sentiment and your dram, and agree with you fully that it's just as much fun as the whiskey itself, the people coming together. Cheers to you. Cheers to Jimmy Legg out in Nova Scotia. So what I did on the build up to this, like I say, I didn't want it to be about anybody judging anybody else on what they're collecting, how they're displaying it, how much they're spending or anything like that. So we're not going to focus too much on where we are today. I've got some photos from back in the day from myself and my guests that's going to join us tonight. But it's more of a kind of realization of the journey and how we've come along. It's to talk about the fact that we can complain about the rising prices in whiskey, and we can complain about the lack of availability. We can have a whinge and a moan about lots of things that's happening, but all the while we need to remember that it's not our whiskey. We don't have any rights to it. And we have to realize that a lot of the time, sometimes the bottles that we're complaining that we didn't get a hold of, and we haven't touched on this really, And all the time we've been talking about price and availability, secondary market, FOMO, and all of these topics that we've been talking about on the show in recent weeks. Sometimes we're buying more than we need. Come on. We are buying more than we need. That's fine. It's okay. We're buying it because we love it, we're passionate about it, and we really want that flavour experience. We know that there's a good chance we're going to like that whiskey. But while we're buying more than we need, we continue to complain about the lack of availability and the increasing prices. And meanwhile, we're building these stashes in our homes and everything. That's just to be mindful of, to be wary of. We're not going to focus on that. It's not what tonight's going to be around. It's not going to be about how big your collection is, how many bottles you have from what distillery and what the value is. Not interested in that. But we do want to think about how we're buying them, when we're buying them, how we look after them, what we're buying, how long we keep them open, how much are we enjoying ourselves, how much are we sharing, how are we managing our collections, and how are we managing the space that we occupy as individuals in this big, huge community buying all this whiskey. Whiskey Crusaders, Matt. Matt, you would have been a fascinating guy to talk to about this. Whiskey Crusaders, Roy, I would not know anything about managing a large collection. Will you be at the Bastards Ball this year? I'm really missing sharing now at Slantia. If the Bastards Ball goes ahead in a situation where I can legally travel, it will be tough to keep me away, Matt, as you very well know. It's one of the highlights for me. It's an amazing, amazing thing, that thing talking about bringing people together. Really want to be there, Matt, and I hope I'm there this year. I'll raise a wee glass and I'll spend a second talking about Matt. Cheers, Matt. You may know Matt because of the content he's putting out there on YouTube as part of the Whiskey Crusaders. They're doing their own thing on YouTube, their own sharing of whiskey using technology. But I know Matt because of the sheer amount of whiskey that he's willing to share. At the Bastards Ball, at the hotel that we all had the accommodation in, we took over the lounge, the lobby area of the hotel, and Matt Zittrick wheeled in a metal cage on wheels full of whiskey and just put it out for everybody to enjoy. Just stunning generosity. Now, I know the scale of Matt's collection is vast, and he has collected by far more whiskey than he could ever drink. But that's not what it's about for him. It's about sharing. It's about education, about teaching people what whiskey is, about bringing people in and understanding it a bit more, to be respectful about alcohol, and to taste all these amazing flavors. Matt's into Scotch, he's into Irish, he's into American whiskies and bourbons, world whiskies. He's into everything. And he must be one of the most hardest working guys in whiskey as well. But an amazingly generous guy, and Matt, it would be a pleasure to hang out with you as well when I'm over in Texas. Jerry Miller is saying, I hope we can have a Bastards Ball. I think we would all very much be looking forward to that if it could happen. Jimmy Leg is saying, I've only bought one bottle so far this year, a replacement for my PC10. I have come to a super comfortable place with the whiskey I have. Maybe you're sitting on that peak, that balance, Jimmy, where you're reflecting and saying, I've got what I need. If something comes along, great. If something disappears, I'll say goodbye and be grateful of my time with it. Maybe you're at that point. Right up until you take a trip to Scotland, Jimmy. And then you'll be booking extra bags back home, and there'll be things that happen that mean that you end up going in a different direction or exploring a different thing. But it would be good if you could keep that Zen moment for as long as possible. Oh, I'm fuzzy. Precarious David saying, I think Roy looks better fuzzy, but his whiskey looks better focused. Ah, okay. So maybe I should be doing this. I don't know if this will work, actually. It's going to want to focus on the whiskey instead of me. It's always just going to want to focus on me. Aye, but that's really there. I don't want to be placing products and having kind of product placement, brand placement behind me. The bottles that exist behind me are sealed bottles. A lot of them are there for special moments, special occasions, that kind of thing. Some of them are gifts from the community that need the right moment to open them. These are gifts from the community. And here are things that kind of drive my passions, whiskies that I love and enjoy, that I want to have here as a backup, or because I want to have them here and I'm a wee bit nervous that they might not always be available, or the price might creep out of reach for me. Still, I'm part of the problem. I'm buying too much. that's what these whiskies are. There are no open whiskies in here apart from the ones that I'm going to use for the broadcast. There's another spot for that I keep for those. Anyway, on the run up to tonight's thing, I started to put out some polls on YouTube. Under the community tab, you might see that there were polls coming up there, and lots of people interacted. Lots of people left comments as well, which was really insightful. I won't be able to read out the comments, of course, but I'm very much grateful for you participating in the 4 questions I put out on the poll. I'm going to share them with you because it's super insightful of you, the community, where our priorities are, how we see and perceive our collections today, and how we treat them. I think it is quite a fascinating thing. Let me pull up this screen share here so that you can see this. Do my best to make this work. Here we go. Now there's a nice collection in the background. That does belong to one of the guests that's going to join us tonight. Nicely lit. So it's a nice backdrop picture there. But this was the poll, the 4 questions that I put out earlier in the week. It ran from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Yesterday was the last question. And we ended up getting about 2,500, more than 2,500 votes in. So it's a reasonable sample, and it gives us a reasonable kind of measure of the attitude of the community. The first question I asked was talking about, forget about size of your collection. I didn't want to know how many you had in terms of bottles or scale, but as a ratio, how many do you have open? And then through the comments underneath, we got some feedback as to whether you felt that was healthy or not. So I simply asked, what ratio of bottles do you usually have open? I think this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because 50%, 51% of the people answering admitted that either all of them are open here. If I can, yep, there we go. All of them are open, or perhaps the majority of them are open. So clearly, 51% are admitting that they're very much in the camp of drinkers, suffering probably from what I used to suffer from in the early days, open bottle syndrome, where I couldn't get a bottle past the front door. As soon as it was over the threshold, I was so eager, so curious to try it that it was opened and shared either immediately or that very evening. That's very much where I was, and I'm still a wee bit like that now about certain whiskies, but I have kind of tempered it over time. About half of the people said they have 50-50. So again, if you look at 50% of the collections being opened, and combine that with people saying that the majority or all are open, and then some people that are probably that have been doing this for a longer while are saying most are sealed. And I'm going to guess there that that's because of over accumulation. They've ended up buying more whiskey than they need, buying backup bottles for the ones that they enjoy. When they go on sale, buying an extra backup bottle. When there's limited editions out, buying a backup bottle. So in time, it builds up to the point that lots of them end up sealed. And they end up with incidental investments. It wasn't their intention to build anything necessarily for the sake of investment. And if they did, if it was intentional, that's fine. No judgment. But they've certainly ended up with that being the case in today's market. But I think that's interesting. No surprises, though. The community that we have here in the lounge, tuning in week after week, tend to be focused on drinking. I'm going to guess that collecting and overaccumulation and investment is probably secondary things for the majority of us. I'm going to admit to me here, for me, and I'll be able to prove to you, I've got a wee list that can't prove anything, but I'll share with you the majority of mine, even with the scale of collection that I have, are open. And that makes sense because most of them, honestly, are opened live. Let's say many of them are opened live, perhaps not most. On Monday, the second question I asked was kind of a similar thing, but I was asking about, okay, now that you've got these collections coming in, how are you storing them? How are you looking after them? Are they still in their boxes? Are they going hidden in cupboards? Are you putting them out on display? How do you share your collection with yourself and the people that come to your home? Out of almost 700 votes, 40% have said that they don't. It's kind of hidden away. Maybe over accumulation there, or maybe it's just that they're hidden in cupboards. 21% saying they're on display, some in tubes, tins, or boxes. 12% saying they're on display but with no packaging, and then 2%, which I thought was funny, admitting that they're just kind of lying around. I actually got a direct message from somebody admitting that they've got room after room after room where they've got bottles in boxes just kind of lying around the place. And then people saying it's 26% saying it's a mixture of storage and display. What's interesting here is that I have a problem in the cupboards. I've got empty boxes because I don't display the empty boxes. I like the bottle to be out. I like to see the colour of the whiskey. If it's open, I like to see where the level is. And when I'm pouring myself a dram, I don't want to fiddle with taking it out of a box and putting it back in a box each time. I also don't kind of want to give it that kind of retail shelf type look to it. And I'm looking for it to be a colourful thing, something to look at and be pretty. But that's not, I mean, there are people that do enjoy the packaging and the styling and things, and they also want to keep it in the box because they perhaps have direct sunlight going on, or it's another layer of protection going on there. But for me, you can see I am in the minority here saying that they're on display without any packaging. The majority actually perhaps are not yet displaying their whiskey. And I found that super insightful. And we bring on one of our guests later. We'll talk to him about a transition he went from where the whiskey was just kind of stashed to him building a purposeful place for it and putting it on display, and the experience he had with that. David Hong has bought me a dram and said, a fan of the channel. Thank you and cheers. Thank you so much, David. It's very nice for you to drop by and leave a wee virtual dram for me. Cheers, David. I'm going to, I realise I haven't brought any glass with me tonight, but they're only over my shoulder. I don't need to go too far. I've had another wee dram in here from Whiskey Works Graham. I'm going to need to pour another wee dram here, Graham. First time I've caught live in weeks. Interesting topic for the night. For me, there's just too much choice for me to buy the same thing twice, Slantia. I get that completely. We have never had it so good, Graham. It's unbelievable, the choice that we have. And I think that's part of the privilege of being part of a bigger community, that when you do purchase the bottle, making a more informed decision about what it's going to be, what you're going to spend your money on. Cheers to you, Graham. Thanks for the dram. This is a completely different dram. It's filling the room already with the aroma. This is a 21-year-old Ben Nevis. Now look how pale that is. Refill cask, obviously, for those 21 years. Another dram from Andrew, part of his blind lineup. Cheers. Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Andrew. Cheers. Menno is admitting, as my collection is cramped into a cabinet, the idea of packaging, bringing in an extra layer of protection in case of collision, is somewhat reassuring. We are squashing it in there. And it also helps you if you're walking around and you find any bounce in the floor at all. If the bottles are touching, they make that noise, don't they? So you've always got to go into the cupboard and make sure they're all equally spaced so that they're not making that rattling noise. And John Della Cuisine is saying, mine are all in a cupboard, which is also what limits the number of bottles I have. Again, you're using real estate, physical space to measure how many bottles you have and keeping it in check. Fascinating. Peter Box is saying, I just bought an IKEA cabinet because my cupboard was getting too full. I bought more than one IKEA cabinet, Peter. I know what that's all about, believe me, my friend. And actually saying, my ambition is to have enough to be pretentious and call it my whiskey library. Well, I would not think you pretentious for doing that. A library is something that you take down and you take inspiration and insight and education from, which means that a library has to be open, doesn't it, actually? Maybe I can come over there to France one day and hang out with you and do some reading together. Fantastic. Anyway, let's go back and look at question 3 now. This is from Tuesday. And I asked, if you keep your whiskey open, or let's wait till, let's just ask, what ratio or how long do you keep your ratio of open bottles open? Are you relaxed about it? How long are they going to be open for, and how many are you happy to keep open for long? Some people, it's just the precious stuff that they tend to keep a long time. Other people, it might be ones that they don't really connect with and they just push to the back of the cabinet and forget about. I've got a couple of those to share with you tonight to illustrate that. And for other people, they're very, very careful and they're nervous about keeping whiskey open too long. It's a big deal, and it's one of the most common questions I'm asked. how long will whiskey stay stable? So you can see that the majority of people are saying that, they've got either all or less open, less than a year, and maybe just a couple that are open more than a year. So generally speaking, 67% there are kind of, 2/3 of us are kind of being careful not to let it slip too long. But then we've got 25 people saying that many are open for years, and 8% saying I've had at least one open for more than 5 years. And that's where I am. I certainly have got more than one open for more than 5 years. So we can talk about that stability thing. We can ask our guests that are coming on tonight about how they've found it. And then finally, the last question I have is related here. And I've just said, do you feel your whiskey suffers from being left open in an open bottle too long? This is super, super interesting. Remember, we've just looked at how many people take care to avoid this. And yet we've got the vast majority of people saying 73%, 3/4 of people asked, either said that not really, or it might change a wee bit, but they don't mind, or no, a flat no, I've had open bottles for ages and they've stayed perfectly fine. That's 3/4 of the community saying relax about how long your whiskey is open for. Some people are saying yes, they feel their whiskey does suffer, 14%, so this is valid. And these people may have way better palates than me. For me, I enjoy the map of a whiskey. I enjoy how it changes from the neck pour, taking it over the shoulder, through the main body of the whiskey, and then down into the dregs. I love leaving it for a while and seeing how it's changed. Now, of course, we don't know for sure if it's changing. It might be me, my palate that's changing, my memory of it, but it's a nice journey. And I have only lost one bottle, potentially, from leaving it open too long. It might have been a contaminant. It might have been left in with a cork off overnight or something like that. But I lost a Yamazaki, and I'll talk about that in a wee minute. Here's my answer. I'm saying not really. I don't really mind, as I'm sharing with you. I don't really mind that that's the case. So I find that to be quite fascinating and certainly insightful. I'm going to show you on that topic 2 bottles here. This one was on the show last week. And I admitted last week that this was 2009. I was given this bottle, and I guarantee you it was open straight away. We have a bottle that's been in my collection for 12 years open. This was a gift from my brother. I didn't really love it. I thought it was okay. It's a big peaty punch in the face. It's not awful whiskey. It's just not great whiskey. And it tends to slip to the back of the cabinet from time to time. Makes an appearance now and again, and then slips back again. So it's going to be interesting to pour a wee dram of this tonight after it's been open for 12 years. Fairly young whiskey. We got it from Ian McMillan last week when he was on. This is probably about 7-year-old whiskey, more or less. Very, very peaty. This is using Islay peat, Islay barley, and taken up and distilled at Tobermory Distillery on Islay Mull. This is Leadchick. This is before the Leadchick range was revamped by Ian and the team to 46.3% and unchill filtered. So this is likely chill filtered, and it's at 42%. This is the more kind of old style presentation that they had from those distilleries. So let's leave that in a glass for a wee bit. I'll tell you about the whiskey that I feel that I may have lost, but I've had a wee dram here from Sam. Sam is saying, Sam said, I think his name is, good evening, Roy and fellow barflies. I shifted my collection to cast strength, non-chill filtered, natural colour only from indie distilleries, and selling everything else, whiskey in its purest form. Well, that's probably exactly that thing I'm talking about, where people work out where they just get most excited. Indies, single casks, purer expressions, cast strength, ones that you're guaranteed to not have filtering, not have colour added. You find out that that's where you feel comfortable, Sam, and that's the route that you follow. It's exactly that, but you had to go through buying all of those whiskies to work out where you would end up being comfortable. Sam, I'm going to raise a glass and thank you for your generous dram to me, Sam, and nice to have you in, my friend. Cheers to you. And Cyclos Kerbango has bought me a dram as well. I always worry about how I'm pronouncing your name as well, my friend Cyclos. Higher ABV must translate to longer shelf life. Cheers to you, and thank you for your dram. I would say, potentially, this one here that's been open for 12 years, I'll clear my palate a little bit, is at 42%. And I'm going to give you a fright when I show you what's in this. This is not Macallan. This is just a vessel, this bottle. This is an old bottle. There was a time that you could buy this Macallan branded like this. Those days are long gone. I don't know if it's going to focus. This is the old bottling of Macallan 10. This would have been at 40%, but that's not what's in this bottle. This is just incidentally the bottle I filled with what I can only call devil's share. When you live in Scotland, somebody will say to you, I've got some whiskey. Would you like to buy some whiskey? And you don't know what it is. There's no provenance to it. You really don't know what you're buying. And there's maybe sometimes people will suggest a story to where it's from. I wouldn't buy that whiskey today, now. But when I started out my whiskey journey, I was very curious and I tried a wee dram of it, and it was like nothing I had ever tasted in my life. It was literally the softest, the richest, the deepest, the darkest, the most amazing whiskey experience. That's all that's left of it. I have no idea what it's from, but I can tell you now that it's old. It's very old. It was given to me in a fairly small bottle as a gift by a friend because he gave me a sample of it and I told him how much he loved it, and he ended up giving me what was left of the bottle. And this is all that's left now. I'm going back to 2011 perhaps. So again, we've got this really old, delicate whiskey. I have no idea what it is. I don't know what the ABV is, but I'd say it's, from my memory, it's about mid-40s. There's still vibrance and grip to it, but it's very, very light and soft. It's very, very dark too. Now, this was very, very precious liquid. The Whiskey Rev and I used to drink this together. I'm going to show you a photo and share you something about where my collections come from. And we would get this out very, very occasionally as a wee treat. We didn't know what it was, but we knew it was something very, very special. I've only poured a wee tiny drip of it because I think the last dram that comes out of that glass I need to share with the Whiskey Rev. And we'll nose this this Lechik from 2009. It's been open for 12 years. So it's very, very peaty, still smoky and peaty on the nose. At 42%, there's not a lot of alcohol hit coming from it, but my recollection of this is that there used to be a lot of alcohol hit. Maybe it's just calmed down a bit. Maybe it's rounded out and softened out in the bottle. Look at how much air has been in that bottle. Lots of air in the bottle to help it just settle and soften and round out. Looks like I've had another 2 drams bought for me. Games commentary saying, what's your choice to better understand a whiskey? Open and try multiple bottles, or to compare, or only open one bottle at a time until it's gone? No. Compare and contrast. Drink in contrast. Even a bottle that you're drinking in isolation, you're loving, enjoying, loving, you're not going to get everything out of it until you start sipping it in contrast. 2 or 3 is enough. Any more than that can start to get confusing, especially at the beginning. Always try to have the ability to compare whiskies, even if they're not the same whiskey, a bourbon and a scotch or whatever it may be, because the flavors in one is going to bring out different flavors than another. It might smother some flavors too. That's okay. That comes with experience. That's why you do it. Always contrast. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your virtual dram. I'm going to have a wee sip of this Lechik as I raise a glass to my friend Christopher Malloy as well, who's bought my dram to say, I never sold a bottle in my life. I'd be curious to know how many watching have actually ever sold a bottle. Is that common? Well, it depends. If it's difficult for you to sell a bottle, perhaps not. It's going to be easier for you not to ever sell a bottle. But if you overaccumulate, it gets to a point where you go, these are not the whiskies I enjoy anymore. So you either gift them, give them away, or you sell them and buy whiskies that you are more comfortable with. And then somebody else benefits out of your bottle that you've sold. Somebody's going to buy it. Somebody's going to buy and love that bottle more than you. So there's no judgment here. There's no kind of, we know that we are not a community of investors, speculators, flippers, whatever you want. There's no judgment even if you are. That's not what tonight is about. If it's easy for you to sell whiskey, and if you just need to nip into the city centre of Glasgow and drop a bag off at Scotch whisky auctions, it's very easy. I've done that once. Go back to the vPub of a year ago, and you'll know about my story, what happened when I flipped a bottle. When the only bottle I've ever bought without any intention of opening it, I lost £100 on it. I don't like the anxiety that comes with that activity. I prefer the people and the whiskey and the moments. Chad Kiso's bought me a dram to say, wow, very generous dram, Chad, thank you very much. My bottles were controlled by the size of the dining room table. I've been there. And my wife evicted us to the basement man cave. 2 shelves later, major bottle expansion, new space had to be filled, 2/3 open. That sounds like so many of us, Chad. Absolutely sounds like so many of us. It's down to space. It's down to ability to be able to purchase it, all of those things. Whiskey Malt Content as well is saying, hi, Roy, thanks for another interesting vPub. Cheers to you, my friend. I need to get this done and get my guests on, my goodness. Anyway, to Chad, to Whiskey Malt Content, who is Vlad, I think. Vlad, isn't it? Christopher Malloy and Games Commentary. Thank you all for your drams. So now I'm working very, very hard on memory, what I believe this whiskey used to taste like. And it tastes almost exactly like that. And I say almost because tonight it does taste soft. And I don't remember this tasting as I'm talking about alcohol, ABV soft. It's only 42%. I don't remember it being that soft. I remember it being a lot more spirity and powerful. This has probably benefited, I would say, from being in an open bottle. I don't think it's gone flat. There's still grip and vibrance there. I think what's happened here is that this has just become a little more, the edges have been knocked off a wee bit, a little more rounded, a little more softened. If I poured this for someone blind, I could tell them it was lots of things and they would accept it. There's nothing to say that we are now sipping a flat, spent, dead whiskey. And this has been with very little in the bottle, as I say, for years. Of course, over the course of 12 years, it's been at various levels, but it's been down here for 2, 3, 4 years more. And I don't think that I've lost this whiskey. If anything, this is probably easier to enjoy and easier to understand after it's been open that amount of time. I don't think I've wasted a drop of this. Now, before I go into my next one, I did have a bottle of Yamazaki Distiller's Choice, Distiller's Reserve, can't remember what it was called. It was the non-age statement that came out to replace the 12-year-old. Sherry cask theme, more or less, or that was the impression that they were trying to share with us, a more sherry cask style, but there was nothing on the labelling about the cask. It could be that the bottle was left uncorked overnight or something, but what happened with about a third or 25% left in the bottle, it went so flat, so bland, so watery. It was neat, undrinkable. In the end, I finished that bottle off, having it on a sunny day, poured over ice as highballs in the back garden. And that's how my friend and Craig Dollar, he's often in, he's probably in tonight. That's how we finished that Yamazaki. It had died on me and I couldn't explain why. I didn't understand why. And it wasn't after a long time. We're speaking maybe a bottle that had only been open a year or two rather than 5 or 10 years. So maybe it's different for certain whiskies. And certainly it could be down to how they are looked after. Maybe I didn't look after that wee Yamazaki enough. Maybe it was me that betrayed it. But outside of that bottle of Yamazaki, I have never lost a bottle of whiskey to the point where it's not drinkable. Yes, they change. Sometimes they will change to your preference, and sometimes they will change. Maybe they don't go in a direction that you enjoy as much. Maybe you enjoyed them when they were a bit more vibrant and fresh and brighter. But they're not undrinkable. And how, honestly, if they're still enjoyable, how do you know that it's the whiskey that's changed and not you? I'm going to go in and have a wee smell and see if this does everything that it used to do. This is one of those whiskies I really want to be able to share with you. I wish I knew what it was, but it's just wonderfully tropical, ripe, rich fruit, overripe mango. There's a spice on there as well, like a nutmeg. There's like a warm leather. There's earth and dunnage, dust. Charred bread, crusts, pastries. This is incredibly rich and decadent. Dark sugar, brown sugar, syrup, like really good maple syrup. No salt, no peat. Anyway, I'll have a wee sip and see how this is fared. That tiny little droplet in the bottom of that bottle. It's very soft. It's very soft. I think probably this is softer. My goodness, it's good whiskey. Oh, good. I wish I had more of this. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I've had it for a long time. The Whiskey Rev and I have shared this over the years. It's always been a kind of treat for us. No provenance whatsoever. Just a gift for a favour from someone. And it's doing this to me now. This is 9 or 8 years. At its youngest in my collection, it's 8 years probably. In that open bottle, I'm tasting like this. It's thinner than you expect. It's not heavy. It's not full. I don't think it ever has been, though. I don't think it's lost body or weight. It goes very dry. Lovely, bitter finish. European oak finish. Just incredible. So that has been abused by me. That should have been decanted years ago into a tiny little sample bottle. And just out of pure, I want to say in one hand laziness, but the other hand genuine curiosity. This is a very old, fragile whiskey. I don't know what it is, but it's clearly old. And yet it's holding together. If you gas your whiskey, if you decant your whiskey into smaller bottles, if you do all of these things, that's fantastic. And you will absolutely look after the status quo of that whiskey. You will lock it into that position and keep it for longer. I encourage you to do that and continue to do that if it's what you enjoy doing. But if you have anxiety and you're wondering how to cope with the open bottles that you have, and you're worried that you might start to lose them and they go flat or they go off, or you've heard or read all these horror stories, while I don't want to take responsibility for your open whiskey collection, I will suggest that you don't need to have anxiety about that. I think you're going to be okay, and your whiskey is going to be okay. Cyclops has bought me another wee dram to say, has anyone tried the Amrut Naranji? That's the orange Amrut, which is not whiskey. Want to get a vibe check before spending the money. I loved it, not for whiskey. It is a whiskey-esque experience, but it is very orangey. So if you know that going into it, I think it's a nice, interesting thing to have. Only had a sample of it on an Amrut tasting, an Indian whiskey tasting. But it was enough for me to get my head around it and decide that it's not something I should be afraid of. If you're able to get it at a good price, my friend, I would just go right ahead if you think that kind of sweeter, more citrusy experience might be something that you would enjoy. Let's reach out to the first of my guests. I'm going to reach out to somebody that's been part of this channel from the very, very beginning. First, he's a local friend to me as well. He's one of the classiest guys in whiskey. He'll not let me say that when he's on air, but I can say it before I bring him on. Reach out to my friend, and I'm going to put him in a category. I'm going to pigeonhole him before I bring him on. This is the guy that you would go to for canny, selective, sage advice about buying a bottle of whiskey. If you needed to kind of decide whether to buy or whether to not, and you were on the fence, this is the kind of guy I would reach out. You know him as KiltedMoose. I know him as Scott. Hello, Scott. Good to see you, my friend.
Hello, Roy. Hello, Barflies. Good to see you.
It's always brilliant to have you in, buddy. You know why I've picked you and pulled you behind the bar first, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason for that is that I hope you don't mind me saying those things. I meant them in the most flattering sense.
Not at all.
You have, because we are members of group chats and community groups and Facebook and all of these places that we talk and we share, and you're always the guy that kind of pipes up, no, this time. I'll let this one pass. Thanks for the offer, boys, but maybe next time. You're the guy that, whereas I'm kind of more likely to say, I don't want it to slip by. I don't want it to miss it. Go, go, go. These are enablement groups we're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've always kind of got this, and you never sit there going, I wish I'd bought that. I never hear you say, I wish I'd bought that. I should have bought that. I should have bought two. That's why I reached out with you. Before I get you to introduce what you're all about, Scott, I'm going to pull up a wee image here.
Yep.
You know the image I'm going to put?
I do indeed, yeah.
This will show you that what I'm talking about with Scott existed way back in the early days. We're going to go back to 6 or 7 years ago and share a picture of his collection back then with everybody. Look at that. Now, these are the sealed bottles. You had open bottles on the side. But I have to say, this is at connoisseur level already. We've got Springbank 15. We've got a nice, now that 26 SMWS, what one is that, Scott? 26?
Yeah, that's a Clynelish. It's a young, a 10-year-old Clynelish, I think it was at the time.
Superb. Clynelish there, a hedonism blended grain. You've got a peat monster again from Compass Box. You've got a Mogwai rum there.
Yeah.
That probably tells a wee tale about what you do for a living, of course. Springbank Green, the 10-year-old Creative Whiskey, what is that?
Well, actually, it's a 10th anniversary Creative Whiskey company. It's actually a 17-year-old Clynelish, cast strength. But it was bottled to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the company back then.
So another Clynelish.
Yeah, so there's two Clyneliches in there, yeah.
Absolutely, and that looks like a Loch Gorm.
Yeah, so I think that's the 2014 Loch Gorm, or maybe the 2015. I can't remember. I couldn't see it on the pic, but yeah.
So what I'm noticing here, Scott, is that you're not the type of guy, and that's why I brought you in. You're not the type of guy that's taking his trolley around to the local supermarket and filling it up with a £25 whatever is on for the deal, picking up, the 40%ers and the whatever they may be, 43%ers. You're probably buying less. Would it be right to assume that you try to do quality over quantity?
Yeah, so when I started drinking whiskey seriously, and I took an interest in it, I was doing that. I was going to the supermarket and trying different things. But it became apparent to me quite early on that I was just attracted to the more heavier ABV stuff. And that's what kind of just started me down the route of just stop doing that and then being a bit more picky about what I was looking for. If I was going to a shop, I was looking for a specific style of whiskey. And at that point, it was Islay whiskey, or peated whiskey, I should say.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that's all I drank was peated whiskey. And so that was what kind of drove me, and just discovering all these different kinds of different expressions and things like that. But I was always kind of wary, like just when things were less than 46%, I was just a wee bit more, even a good deal on it, I'd be like, I'd rather maybe put that extra 25, 30 quid on a better bottle sort of thing. So that's how I kind of judged it. And then once I tried a bottle, I rarely buy the same bottle twice. It's very, very rare that I do that. Even if I've got a chance to do it, if there's like, you add one to basket and you can add another one, I rarely do it. I just think there's too much.
You're quite happy as well for not just, I'll ask you what limits you in a second as well, whether it's money, whether it's just kind of conscientiousness, or whether it's real estate, but you're also happy then, once your experience with a bottle is finished and it's over, you're happy just to enjoy that and let it go?
Yeah, very much so. I think that actually it was, looking back, I joined the Scotch Malt Whisky Society back in 2014. So you'd buy a bottle and you'd get it home and you'd open it. And obviously a single cask, you're never going to see that bottle again. But I never thought twice about that. I never thought, I must keep this. But what I do, if I'm really enjoying a bottle, you're talking there about fill levels in bottles. If I'm drinking a bottle of whiskey and I really like it, and it gets to a certain level when it's just hitting the spot, I'll just take a sample of it right there and then, label it and put it into a drawer. And so I've always got something there like in a kind of wee whiskey library.
A wee archive.
A wee archive, and it's not just single cask stuff. It could be like things like an Ugadal, or it's quite interesting to compare a 2015 Ugadal with a 2021 Ugadal and that kind of thing. I quite enjoy doing that as well, having an evening with different kinds from different years. But yeah, I'm quite happy just to drink it a single cask, and once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, I've experienced it, I've enjoyed it. I would rather do that than just look at it, just sort of gather and dust a wee bit, And there are bottles I've got, I've got an open bottle certainly, which we'll touch on. But yeah, it's about the experience at the moment, and once it's gone, it's done.
See, I think that what's maybe happening there, I was kind of wondering if you'd maybe hit an epiphany point and you just kind of realised how to manage things a bit better. But I think this is you playing to your personality. You're a bit of a pragmatist, probably. You're a wee bit more laid back about it, and you're good at keeping the FOMO things in check. I think that comes across. But you do have your Achilles heels now and again. I know you're a big fan. You used to be into Lagavulin, probably still are, but and more recently, and as far back as that, actually, you can see the Klein leashes that you have there from Creative and SNWS. Yeah, Klein leash is a bit of a weakness for you.
Huge weakness, yeah. I think that the problem with those Klein leash at the moment, certainly indie bottles of any aged Klein leash, it's just the price is just now unattainable. I can't afford to buy a £300 bottle of 24-year-old Klein leash. Certainly right. Take a punt on it. There's no way it's going to happen. So that's quite sad in some ways. But there are, as you've always said, and there's always more whiskies out there. There are kind of replacement whiskies for that. I kind of stocked up with some Klein leash before. But yeah. I mean, I think we've all got distilleries that we love. Lagavulin, I love Lagavulin. It's my favourite Islay. And the 12-year-old I pick up every year. So I say I don't buy bottles two of the same. I don't really buy two. I don't buy two of 2017, or just one will do me. And I do love that Lafroy Castre. But Lagavulin is my Islay whiskey, and I'll always buy it if I can. But I don't go for it. Like, so you're in the shop, I don't buy any of it. There's like ones I could maybe afford, but I'm not going to buy it because it's got a certain finish on it, or I'm kind of, over the years, I kind of sort of tuned in a wee bit more to what is going to bring me benefit. And I don't want a heavily sherried whiskey of any kind, really. I want more bourbon cask or refill. That's where I am now. And it took me years to kind of whittle that down to figure that out. So a lot of experimentation, a lot of buying bottles that didn't quite work with me. But now I'm much more in tune now. So if I do see a bottle that's coming out and there's a huge stooshy around it, if it's a heavily sherry thing, I'm probably going to be, it's not for me, and I'd rather someone who did like it, that still whiskey, would get that rather than me. It's no point me having that, opening it and maybe not enjoying it. I mean, everyone talks about the Kilkerran 8. Give me a Kilkerran 8 bourbon cask every day.
I know that you and I are similar in that kind of love for ex-bourbon, refill bourbon, that kind of thing. And I know that that's the direction that you're drawn in. But what happens there, Scott, is because I know you and I see expressions coming out being released on the market. I'm like, oh, here's one for Scott. And I'm trying to enable you. Here's one that you might like, and things, oh, yeah, it's right up your street. And that kind of thing happens. Are you limited then? Is it just down to Scott being canny and a pragmatist and being savvy about these things? Or are you limited? You're clearly limited by budget. I know that it almost goes without saying we all are to an extent, but are you limited by real estate? Are you limited by, do you set any other kind of limits of yourself on it?
Well, it's interesting. I am limited by real estate. There's a cupboard where most things are stashed. Usually I have 6 or 7 bottles out next to in the living room. But there's just not enough space in this flat to keep everything I want to keep. But that said, I mean, I would say that it's fine saying that, no space for that. It would stop me buying a bottle if I see a bottle coming out. There's always somewhere to put it.
There's always the floor.
Aye, exactly. There's always put in the airing cupboard, put the towels in there. But so the budget is a thing, yeah. I mean, I kind of over the years I've tried to rein it in a little bit, like the spending, because at one point the spending was getting a bit out of control. I was never spending more than I could afford, so I mean, I was okay in that. But I was thinking, I'm buying too much whiskey. I'm buying too much. I know some of it's going to be good stuff, but just need to just put the brakes on it. I worry that there's so many bottles that I'm not going to get a chance to drink them all.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And I think most people in the community are probably guilty of that, of buying too much or being caught up in that, this new bottle, we have to buy it. And we've all done it, and I still do. But yeah, so it's a bit of everything, really. It's a bit of all these things. But over the last, I'd say 18 months or so, I've been a bit more, or much more restrained in what I buy. Even if I know it's a good bottle at a decent price, I'm thinking, do I need it? I'm not sure I do. If it's a distillery that I'm a fan of, then I might buy it. But if it's a distillery character, which is the same to the ones I've already got, then I probably wouldn't buy it. I'll probably just let it go, because I don't have too many bottles doing the same thing. And I've noticed that in my collection recently, that really gravitating towards younger bourbon cask matured whiskies, Speyside ones. And I think that I don't want too many of the same, if you know what I mean. So
yeah.
I'm just trying to just rein it in a little bit. I'm not going to buy a 24-year-old version.
And that's right. None of us need the whiskey. None of us need that bottle, then whatever it may be. But what you're actually saying there is, I don't need that, but I'm going to cast my net out a bit further. I'm going to go into Speyside. I'm going to make sure I have a wee bit of that and a wee bit of this and a wee bit. And so you're still you're almost admitting and leaving yourself open to that enjoyment a wee bit. Let that river wash you along a wee bit. It's okay, but reach out now and again and grab that branch and let it flow past you for a while, because of money, because you've got too much, because of whatever it may be. You're the guy I'm going to come to from here on in and say, Scott, do I really need this? But I'm always going to have a wee kind of, because there was we don't need to talk about what it was, but there's a very expensive bottle that you and I both bought very recently.
Yeah.
And because we seem to have very similar tastes when it comes to Islay whiskey, when it comes to Highland whiskey, when it comes to whiskey generally. I think I'm a wee bit more into sherry casks and different expressions than you are. I think maybe you enjoy bourbons a wee bit more than I do.
Yeah.
But I would say that generally you and I are very, very close in our preferences, down to the point that exact bottle was the one that we were both interested in at the same time.
Yeah.
I had the money through my birthday to buy it, and I was still afraid to buy it. And you were able to use rationale, honestly, not an addict's argument. You were able to use a real live argument to say, this is why I'm going to buy it now. Yeah. And it meant that I had nothing. I have to buy this now. I had the note from my son. I had the money from my birthday, everything. And I was like, and even Scott has ponied up and given this brilliant reason why now's the only time to do this.
Yeah, so I mean, I bought that bottle for really to open next year in 2022 for my 50th birthday. But it got to, after the year we all had last year, it got to Christmas Eve just there. And I thought, do you know what, I'm opening it now.
And I think we can tell people what it is, because probably most people know, but
I've
just shouting Brora, I'm sure.
I've got it here, actually, if you want to see it.
We would love to see it, especially yours is open and mine's is sealed. I mean, even to look at, to me, I don't know, this is an odd thing. I know that it shouldn't affect me, but just to look at it, it affects me. I've tried that whiskey. I know how good it is. And but it's not going to live up to its price, but we're not buying it for that reason. Absolutely. We're buying it because of what it means to us on an emotional level.
Yeah. And I think that this one, as I say, opened on Christmas Eve after the terrible 2020 we've all had.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it on Christmas Eve. I brought in the bells at New Year with it as well. And I had some on my birthday in January. And, that's not a drama I'm going to be having all the time. We're talking about airing bottles and let them go down. I'm not going to put that into smaller bottles or gas it. I'm just going to let it do its thing. And then next January, for my 50th, there'll be plenty left to go around as well. So I think I didn't even have any hesitation about opening it. I know there's some bottles that we've all got in our collection which are probably, they're too expensive to open, or it weighs in your mind a little bit. You think, well, I could probably sell that for 350 quid or 400 quid.
But they
I've
become
never
a
sold
ball and chain, don't they? They become a ball and chain.
They do a wee bit, and I've never bought anything from auction. I've never sold anything at auction. Everything I've bought over the last nine years is to drink. If not now, then at some point. I think the thing with that Brora was the plan was to open it for my 50th, but I got this kind of nagging feeling that we'll wait for special occasions to open bottles. And that special occasion will come and it'll go, and that bottle's still there. Something else will take its place. And weeks turn into years, and I think that sometimes you just got to think, I got this bottle for a reason, and I'm going to drink it, and I'm going to open it now and do it now. But when I opened it, I had no regrets about doing it. I think that if you think about the price of it and everything else, it could make you think I'm not opening it. But that's not why I've got it. It was bought specifically to drink and enjoy. And that's what's happening to it, and I think that that's the same for everything in my collection. But I do have bottles that I bought, like Fisheel bottles, when I was at the Fisheel in 2017, which aren't open yet, and they weren't bought to flip. They were bought just, you're at the distillery on the day, they're there, you just buy them. It's like, yes, I'm going to buy it. And then years go by, and I think that we keep buying bottles to add to the bottle we already have. And so these things do get pushed back a little bit, or they're under another bottle and you don't see them for a while. So nothing's bought to flip or sell, but having a bit more picky about what I buy and what brands I buy from as well, if that makes sense, independent bottler wise.
No, absolutely, it makes sense. We all get our favourites. Whether we can justify it or not, I don't know. Yeah. My bottle that we spoke about the other Brora is still sealed, but my plans for that. That's hopefully going to be opened in a field in Sunderland one day in the future. Yeah. But I mean, I don't. Before I go, actually, I'm going to ask you what. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you one more question. What kicked it all off, Scott? And maybe you don't have it in the collection now, but do you remember what your first bottle was?
Yeah, the bottle that, from being a kind of casual whiskey drinker, like the end of the night dram after a night of beers, it was a bottle of, it was a taste of Ardbeg Ugadal, and I'd never tasted anything like that before in my life, and I was amazed by it, and so much so that I just thought, how can this exist, and what is it? I don't even know what I'm drinking, but it's amazing. And so for me to get into to whiskey, it was through peated stuff, it was through the Ugadal. And then I bought a bottle of the Ugadal. That was the first bottle I bought to be serious about whiskey and explore it. And then that was the kind of led me on to further down the path. That was the kind of start the domino effect, that was the one.
So you came in through a different gateway. If you came in through a heavily peated, very specific, interestingly, sherried Islay style, at 54% ABV, high ABV. So you started at the top and then had to climb downstairs a wee bit. John Bell has just bought me a dram to say, great convo, always good to hear from Scott. If I'm ever brave enough to play Is It a Speyside, please wait until after Roy's cheeks turn red so I have a chance. So you're wanting to wait till a wee bit later in the stream, John. Thank you so much for your drama, friend. Cheers to you, John. Cheers.
Cheers, John.
And as well, James McGoran is recognising in you, Scott, the rationale. And I think he was applauding it. It's only going to get more expensive, which was the reasoning that we used for that Brora. We've spent years and years watching it just continually get more expensive, getting more and more out of reach. It's time to either, what is it they say, piss or get off the pot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we did, and I'm looking forward to that day on a field someday. Yes, but are you staying till the end of it tonight? Are you able to hang out?
No, I'm definitely hanging out, Ron. That's fantastic. Thank you again for inviting me on today as well. I really appreciate that. Fantastic.
From here on in, if you don't mind, I'll come to you as my canny selector when it comes to the decisions. Cheers, Scotty. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Roy. Catch you later on.
Cheers. Aye, that's the guy who is able and seems to have a very healthy handle on FOMO, more than a lot of us. Eric Waite is in. Eric, good to see you. As a student of whiskey, I find myself buying whiskies just for academic purposes, a region to study or a style to learn. Absolutely, Eric. And you're only into whiskey, what, 4 years now or 5 years or something? So there's that idea that, especially when you're doing it for the channel as well, you've got the channel, you've got your studies, you've got the fact that you've got so much ground to cover. And there's no judgment, there's no understanding. There's only understanding, for the fact that people have got all the reasons to do what they're doing. And I think it's great fun. It's the enjoyment. And it's just, that's kind of what the goal is tonight, to work out how to manage these collections so that we can always optimize the enjoyment. And if we are spending, we know that we're doing it for academic reasons to check out regions or styles or whatever it may be. We can relax with that. That doesn't bring anxiety. But sometimes some of the messages that you get, some of the discussions that you have, you realize that the collection is becoming something of anxiety. Should I sell some? Should I keep it? What should I do with this? These open bottles, how do I manage it? All of these things. Thomas Elmer is saying, one of the reasons I tend to buy and save is I've seen bottles that I expected to rely on and not worry about having available and then have the distillery do away with. It crushes. You know, there's that thing as well. And it's interesting to hear from Scott there that he's got this thing where he never buys a backup bottle, or he doesn't. I do suffer from that. I want to have that experience to continue. There's an interesting thing that maybe Scott would know, that when you do have your time with the bottle and it's finished and it's gone, and maybe it's never to be replaced again. Maybe it's a single cask or it's been discontinued, whatever. Each time you recall that bottle, the memory makes it a more positive experience. It'd be interesting to see if again, because of the channel, because of the sharing, because of the evangelizing I do here in my house under normal circumstances, obviously lockdown notwithstanding, but you have people around the table. So you kind of have those staples that you always have. You rely upon, maybe it's your Lagavulin 16, your Deanston 12, your Glencadam 10, your Bunnahabhain 12. You're going to have all of these whiskies in stock all the time, because you know, for people coming into whiskey, these are experiences that you feel good about recommending for them and having them try. Sammy is saying the bottles with an emotional attachment are some of the hardest to open. We fear losing that moment when it's all gone. That's right. What if we are gone, Sam? We're the weak point in this. The whiskey will always be there. We are the transient thing. We are the organic weak link. We need to enjoy it when we can, and I'm not suggesting everybody runs out and opens all the bottles that they're keeping for special occasions, but it's helping just kind of changing our attitude a wee bit to the point that sometimes that special occasion can be a Tuesday night. Sometimes the special occasion is the fact that we're opening a special bottle. Sometimes it can just be being with a good friend, somebody that you love in your family. Any moment can be made amazing by opening a nice bottle of whiskey. But I, Sam, suffer from exactly that thing you're talking about. Absolutely. Eric Cunliffe is in. Great to see you, Eric. Always good to see you. Good evening to you. And the Barfly's just checking in between torturing the locals at work. He's a yoga teacher, and that's what he's talking about, torturing. Vin from No Nonsense Whiskey's in as well, saying, I don't have FOMO at all. Very happy to keep to the available stuff. Again, you have other ideas about that, Vin. Very interesting as well. You've built a channel on available stuff. You've almost got that. You're comfortable in that space and you've set it up to be so. You don't feel that you need to go in the single cask directions. You don't feel the need to go after limited expressions or expensive stuff, because you know what your channel's all about, buddy. And that's where you enjoy your whiskey. And that's where it's beautiful, because you're comfortable. You've found your comfy spot. And you get to say that you don't suffer from FOMO. Greg is saying, true, I told you what I did after that. Open my last bottle of Port Ellen. Good for you, Greg. Yeah, I'll raise a wee glass and say, I hope it's as tasty as the nicest Port Ellen you ever remember, Greg. Cheers to you. Not a lot of Port Ellen left in the world. Graham Fraser is saying, I do wonder about whiskey folk who only buy, collect and drink from single distillery completists. Well, there's that completist thing, and then there's the people that just find a distillery that they really love and connect with, and they go in that way. But you're right, Graham, it doesn't work for me, because I'm always I'm far too curious. I have far too curious a mind. I'm always looking for the next thing. Whiskey Novice is saying bottles like Lager 16 scare me. I always want one of them in my cabinet, but the price is getting out of hand. What's happened to the price of Lagavulin 16? Wow, has it suddenly jumped? Has it suddenly jumped? Dancing Midge is saying life is the special occasion. Enjoy it all. Absolutely, Glenn. I think that's a great thing to take away. Let's reach out to my next guest tonight. I'm going to reach out to this guy because he's a wee bit of one of these kind of super excited, voracious, buy it, get it, buy it, get it. And it was actually at the point where he was building 2 collections at once in 2 different locations in the globe. It got crazy. It's not for me or anybody to point a finger and say, is this not a bit fast? Is this not a bit too much? And it wasn't necessary, because this guy managed to find his own way to evaluate things and to look at what he was doing and to find another route. He will openly admit to being if you were going to categorize this next guest, it would be a FOMO sufferer. And I'm going to reach out to the west coast of the USA and bring in another bottle chaser, but maybe a recovered bottle chaser, I don't know, and my buddy Gregor McWee. Good to see you, and good to see you in uniform as well.
Cheers, Roy. Yeah, there we go.
Always brilliant to welcome you behind the bar, Gregor. Good to see you, my friend. Are you well?
I'm good. I'm doing really well.
I was honest. I was only honest there, right? You have to admit that things got a wee bit crazy. If I'm right, if I understand well, you were building a collection in the UK at home. You were getting bottles shipped to your parents' house, right? And then when you're out there on the west coast of the US, you're making the best advantage of your location out there, and you're picking up a collection there, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Can I share that picture first?
Is that the first picture?
Yeah.
Early, yeah, sure.
So Gregor sent me this. Let's date this. When would this be from?
2016, 2017.
Very recent then, right? So 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I'm young in the game.
Right, let's have a wee look at this just now. So there's two images here because it was a panoramic shot. Now, I have to say that there's a fair spread of whiskies, and it's probably quite telling of when it was as well, because you're seeing a couple of Yamazakis, a nice Yamazaki there, a Yamazaki 12. But then sitting right next to the juxtaposition of this is incredible, right? A monkey shoulder.
Yep.
That looks like the coffee grain, the Nika that's there. A 21-year-old Aberfeldy, a beautiful honey dram, but ruined at 40%. I always felt. Yep. Maybe you get it at 43 if you're lucky. There's a Glenmorangie in the background, a Glenmorangie there at the front. There's a Bulveni Caribbean 14, a Bulveni 16 triple cask. It looks like a compass box in the background. If we go and look at the next image here, the right-hand side, we've got an Aberlour 16, an Edred. This is quite an eclectic collection. Compass box luxury. So this is 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's probably a year into taking it serious, like, or getting a bit more. So that was like discovering Whiskey Tube, discovering you by now, I would have thought. The Whiskey Tribe were influencing all of that. Yeah. So it's.
But if I look at that collection now, buddy, if I look at the spread of bottles that you had, that's a pretty complete collection. You've got beginners, gateway whiskies in there. You've got nice special stuff. You had a nice looking Edredauer in that lineup as well. You've got Japanese, you've got American, plenty Scotch. You've got a wide spread of whiskey. So you didn't even have a route to go. You were anybody's whiskey. You were in any direction.
Oh yeah, like it was. You see these videos of kids or anyone that they're color blind. And they get the glasses, and suddenly, the world opens up. That was where I was. Like, the lights were turned on, and it was like, and you've got all this, and you've got, to some degree, some of the accessibility to it. And it was like, it was a metaphorical supermarket sweep of like, go. It was like this, I think the starter pistol had gone. I'm using all these metaphors. And, I was like, oh, go. And grabbing everything. And then, yeah, like you said, I was using the fact that I've got a UK depot in my folks, who have since cut me off. Like, my mum tapped out. She said, that's it, no more
deliveries.
Yeah. I snuck in a Black Friday special last year from the Whiskey Exchange. But I think that's a good snapshot of like where I was at that point, which was what, 3.5 years ago.
Anthony Dunn's bought us a dram to say a blunderbuss whiskey collection. Yeah. Absolutely, it would have been like that. And I don't think that you take that personally. I think you're okay with that description. You were a bit of a whiskey prostitute. You were ready to go anywhere, anything. And it's that kind of flavor thing, isn't it? It's when whiskey gets its claws in, and you're like, I've spent all these years without it. I need to catch up. It's now. Oh, that's going to disappear soon. It's that.
Yeah, and it was all new. It was all new to me. Like, I can tell you that the Highland Park 18 that was on that shelf, there was a video I watched it's still up on YouTube, and the guy, I can't remember his name, black and white video, and he talked about how Highland Park 18 had this unique mouth drying and then salivating reaction. I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. That sounds
That was the brand ambassador.
Yeah.
I remember those videos that Highland Park were putting out back in the day. Yep.
And so there was all of those you could probably attribute to either a conversation or a YouTube video. And I was so reactionary, it was, and I had no patience. It was, there was a little bit of frugal Scot in me as well. I was like, I could pay X in a bar to try that, or X plus whatever, and buy the bottle, and there you go. And that was.
I have to say that if the contrast of you coming on and talking like this, by the way, but I get it completely because I've been there. I wasn't doing it in two different countries in parallel, but fine. You were leveraging your geographical location and your parents, of course. And I mean, it's different. I mean, what we can buy online and what we can order online in the UK is much more open than what you can do in the States. But depending on where you are geographically, that's going to be limited for you. But you were using you were leveraging both locations to build that collection at breakneck speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's completely different from Scott. You were saying aye to everything. Yeah, gimme. And then suddenly, one of the reasons that you were so obvious to talk to about this is that we get, instead of the kind of cardboard box image of Gregor McWee's collection, we get this thing that's behind you now. Tell us what's happened to you in recent months. It's fascinating. Hang on. Anthony's bought me another dram. He said, that was a compliment. I was the same. When I started, I wanted to try everything and was in love with every new experience. Anthony, we fully know that it was absolutely a compliment. And it is whiskey, especially if you're open-minded and curious like Gregor is, like I am. Whiskey can draw you in too many directions at once. We don't have the time, we don't have the wallet, and we certainly don't have the health and the liver for it. So we need to find ways to kind of manage it a wee bit better. But buddy, tell me what's happened to Gregor McWee and his collecting recently.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting one because I dished that, or I found that old photograph, and that's an interesting point in the journey, because that was one shelf. There was still, you could still see the shelf, and then fast forward another few years, I elbowed my way into the bottle chasers. I remember I was thinking back. You talked about the bottle chasing ism of, and then I think there was one chat, and you said it was live, and I think you said, you need to meet Scott and Seve, and that was a red rag to a bull for me. I'm like, oh, there's others, there's more. So that opened it up, and then fast forward, that shelf was full. The shelf under it was full. Bottles are now on the floor, and I've got a few friends back in Musselburgh, and they were all saying, dude, you need to store them better. You need to better represent it. And so, yeah, this year, I guess it was the start of this year, I started sort of deciding I need to better display or make more accessible the bottles that I had, because they were getting so far deep that I started to forget what was there, quite frankly. And it's an interesting point as well, because I was collecting at a point that I was buying stuff that interested me then, and my taste would go past it, right? We talked like there's a danger that you go beyond, you're collecting beyond your palate. So there's stuff now that I still have, probably now, that I'm like, I'm past that. My palate is beyond there, like your 40%ers. There's still that. I'm like, so anyway, I got to the point where...
But you've over-accumulated some of these things based on where you were at that point, and then you find yourself thinking, these are not the same value as they once were to me. Exactly
that. And I mean, my overriding sort of motivation was I wanted, the dream bar at home, the dream selection of, like, when I want to go for a whiskey, it's not like, oh, which one do I have? It was like, what mood am I in? So I don't know what the opportunity now, what mood I'm in. There's so many moods, but I realized, I did some basic math, and I worked out what's a healthy amount to consume in a year. And then I looked at the amount of bottles that I had, and I realized, quite honestly, I had anywhere between 5 to 10 years worth of bottles if I stopped buying. And I can't see them was one thing. So I had to make it more accessible. So I did a search and I found a bunch of images, you know, and a lot of us are using sort of cube layouts, but that for me wasn't great because again it goes deep and I didn't like the idea of having to you know, push stuff out the way to get to it. So I found a guy.
There remains things hidden, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to match the storage with the sort of impetus of like mood. What do I fancy? There we go, boom. And I found one guy, I forget the person's name, he's Mr. something, it was a number. I put it on a forum on the Barflies. I found one guy that had customized, or he made his own unit, his own cupboard, and put them at an optimum angle that you could get the most amount of bottles in, but you can reach in and get it. And that was kind of where I was at. So I kind of hacked together between two of the cabinets you can see behind me of an IKEA thing that allows for that angle. The whiskey never touches the cork. Everyone asks me that. That's not a problem. And now I can see far more of my bottles. There is still a little overspill, I'll be honest. There is an overspill shelf.
Nobody's perfect.
But yeah, but what's happened now is it's amazing. First of all, it was amazing putting all the bottles out. If you haven't done it, anyone in the group, you know, you need to be able to see your bottles. It was like, oh, I've got that and I've got this and this is amazing. So I now have them in a way that they're all there to be opened. That's primarily why I've been buying anything. But now it's like it's really accessible. So the accessibility is the biggest change.
Well, there's a takeaway here. You saw this poll question that came up, right?
Yes.
How do you store or display your bottles? And you know, we're at 39% are say I don't. They're kind of hidden away.
Yeah.
So that's the majority of people are saying that currently. So I think what we take from that is that you are now suggesting that you gained a huge thing from that simple transition, from taking them out of the boxes, the tubes, the cupboards, the corners, the bigger boxes, the suitcases.
Yeah.
You took them out, you made a space for them and you laid them out. You probably discovered things that you'd forgotten you had.
Absolutely.
You suddenly found that you had an ability to display these things and actually pander to more moods than your simple character has, potentially. Yeah. It takes somebody more complex than Gregor McWee probably to find a mood for all of those bottles. And you admitted to us that you'd found, and the word you used, I've used it 2 or 3 times tonight, was zen, this kind of peace from seeing this whiskey and going, wow,
yeah,
I've got plenty whiskey.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the majority of us are in the same position. And you get this double payoff, right? Because we've bought it, cool, and it's in the store, or our store. A joke often, right? All we've done is move. You've paid to move it from the store to here.
Yes.
But it's a bizarre one. And it happened, yeah. So like you get this double payoff of I own it now. I've forgot about it. Now you've been reunited with it. It's Whiskey Reunited. .com.
Whiskey Reunited. That's a
and that's where I'm at now. Like I can see the vast majority of the bottles that I've bought that I want to one day open, but they're just waiting. So now it's. I mean, there is a caveat here as well. I also said enough. I'm amassing more than I'm consuming, and so it's gone crazy. It's gone nuts. So I said to myself, enough. New year, I cut myself off. I'm not going to buy any new bottles. I will be fully honest. There's been a few purchases made on my behalf of me being on good tick with others, but I don't see that as a purchase. That's not. So you know, I've gone where are we at? We're in March. I've gone.
So you set a rule and then you kind of just. Are we saying then that it's not breaking a rule? It's bending a rule.
I think it's because that money was spent. That's whatever. That's good taxes. That was done. So I've said to myself, no new bottles now until I come home, and I'm fully intending to do a distillery tour, a proper one, a warehouse tour, shall we say?
Sure.
And you know, the checkbook will be with me. That will be blank check central, but that will probably be it for another chunk as well. I think that's how I'm going to be.
So you're saving your money for the time that you're able to travel again, get back to Scotland, and then coming back to Scotland for you this time will be much more of a whiskey focused thing. So you're saving up your money. You've kept your FOMO in check.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're in March now and you've not bought a bottle. You've not actually paid cash for a bottle of whiskey this year, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's a decision that you made to yourself. I promise you made to yourself, but also helped by you going through that ability of taking your whiskey out of being holes and hidden and putting it out to be enjoyed and taking pleasure from it.
Yes. Yeah. You know, seeing it, I mean, it's okay. Admittedly, it's in the basement. I'm not seeing it daily. I would be lying if I said I've not come down into this room and just to look at it, quite frankly, even if I'm not dramming, if it's a dry day. But the difference...
Well, it's nice to look at.
Oh, it's beautiful. You know, the different colours of amber is insane, honestly. But I can't underestimate what the payoff is to be able to see that, you know, when you want, versus ferreting through boxes and stuff. It's amazing.
So it's difficult to overstate the pleasure you get out of just having that thing, because it was something that you had but you didn't appreciate because it was hidden from you. It was hidden. Yeah. I'm going to jump. Welsh Toro's saying around 2015 we realised the prices were going to go up and more people were getting into the game. We had to buy a lot of stuff fast. I couldn't buy that stuff now. I think you're probably right, and if you had the foresight back then, you're probably doing better than we did in the last couple of years, Welsh. Absolutely. Kilco is saying, due to the generosity of the Whiskey Tube community, I've finally gotten to the point where I don't have enough space in the corner. Absolutely, Brian. And samples build up and bottle shares. And Anthony Dunsbot, another Dram, saying, do we not hide them so the partner doesn't see bottles being sneaked? I think that might be into the house when we already have so many. Blessed my wife loves whiskey. I realised I didn't want to ever get there, and my wife has always been fairly accommodating, but I know that there are negotiations happen behind the scenes regularly in relationships globally. There's no doubt that happens, Anthony, absolutely. And Al's bought me a Dram to say, thanks, Roy. I'm 1 year into my journey, and this month, and up to 70 bottles, all on display, with a lot still unopened, and I think it's too early to appreciate. Well, that's fine, but I mean, we're all talking about it being awareness, Alan, aren't we? And you know that you're early on, and there's some bottles there that you've put up there, and because they're out in display, you've got a visual check for yourself to know where you are. Whereas I think if you're buying and they never come out the box, they never come out of the packaging, you just know that you've got it there, the reassurance of having it. You're maybe not getting the full thing that even a sealed bottle, some of those bottles over your shoulders, Greg, will be sealed, right? A sealed bottle can bring. Sorry, I missed Chris Banks Wildlife is saying, I've been collecting and drinking whiskey since the 1990s, but still find it interesting bottles to try. It goes on. I think it's something that we touched on. Whiskey, not just Scotch whiskey. I mean, it's almost endless. Even if you just look at Scotch, the variety, the regions, the different styles, the ages, the prices, the everything. Then you go into Ireland, and you go into England, and you go into Europe, and you go into the States, and bourbon and Japanese and world whiskies. It's endless. We can never do this if we're a completist. We have to do it bite by bite, share by share, little by little. Absolutely agree, Chris. It's just the list does go on. Graham Fraser saying, spare a thought for us whiskey barflies that also stock up with vintage port, quality sherry, and good wine. Listen, I take my hat off to you, Graham. I don't know how you manage it, but you've obviously got... I find it difficult to step outside of Scotch into other whiskies, let alone into other drinks. I do like beer, I do like a glass of wine, but it doesn't bring the passion like whiskey does. And Helen is saying, thank goodness, Andy and I both enjoy a Dram. Our collection certainly wouldn't be the size it is if one of us didn't enjoy a Dram. Tell me, Gregor, what was your first bottle? What was the banana skin that you first ever slipped upon?
It's a good one. There's a bunch of questions in here that we should maybe touch on as well if we can.
Go ahead.
I'll go on the whiskey, and then people are talking about the cabinets and the collection. A collection versus selection is a good one, I think, to expand on. But the first bottle, I would say my gateway, there's probably a couple, but the gateway for me, because like I said to you, like I wasn't into whiskey for a long time. I felt the onus to be a whiskey drinker as a Scotsman. But I would say it was one of those, you knew it was an acquired taste, and you kind of endured it and pushed it. So, but it was a Glenmorangie for a number of years. Glenmorangie was the only bottle on my shelf of whiskey. I just don't think I was
the original, the 10.
No, it was
Santa.
Funny one. No. It wasn't core, but it was. I want to say like it was a special reserve or something. You know, some
right. Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
It was probably, even now thinking about it, that's an NAS. But because it didn't have a year statement. But that was my gateway. It was approachable. Probably influenced some of my sort of, you know, sherry influence that, you know, I'm in that place. That would be one. Another gateway that probably unlocked whiskey for me, again, and I know you called it a gimmick, but you know, we're all entry point. That's the beauty. We've all got different entry points.
Sure.
It was a Balvenie Caribbean cask that it was like it turned a light on. That
I called it a gimmick. Did I say it was gimmicky?
I think they give, or just rum casks in general, and I would probably agree now. But you know, I want to touch on one point as well, which is, you know, the collecting is one thing. But the journey of palate and your palate development and confidence in what your palate is a big one. That, you know, that's enabled me to go, okay, enough, and I'm confident enough in my palate to know, a bit like Scott said, right? He got there pretty quick, or that he was like, this is what's for me. You know, the lunacy is there's a couple of lunacy points. I've been buying bottles of peated stuff, and I don't even like peat. Right?
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the kind of sherry head and trying to introduce them to peat. I think what it's going to take, Gregor, is in order for you to make that step and make use of those bottles, is for you to make that pilgrimage to Islay or a distillery where you can enjoy the peated process.
I'm all in. I'm all in for that. you can have my checkbook for that trip. But
it's amazing how many of us, peated whiskies is what brought us in. As you've heard Scott there, most of my friends were converted into the enjoyment of it by peated whiskies. Bogdan Rilski is saying, my gateway whiskey was my cousin pouring me a Lafroig 10. After that, it was a slow descent into whatever you call this. Welcome. The water is warm, Bogdan. Whatever you call it, keep it positive. Whatever you call this. Sorry, Gregor, you go.
No. The other point of lunacy is, I mean, this is just logistical, but you know, I've said there's an impending distillery tour, sabbatical, whatever you want to call it, happening. At the same time, I have 50 bottles of whiskey in my mum and dad's house. So I'm going to come home and I'm going to buy more, and that's more trips. You know, I subscribe to the Eric Waite number of bottles that I can ever import home, which is, you know, as few underwear as you ever want to wear on a trip to offset.
Right.
But so no, that would be my gateways, Roy. I think there was just a couple of questions while I'm on, not to dominate at all, but it came up. I forget, Menno said who. I think it was Mission. He was asking about, like, when we've amassed so much. Good question for you as well, Roy. When we've amassed so much beyond we'll ever consume, what's the foresight or what's the plan? I'm happy to know that I will leave the earth with a few bottles of whiskey going to my son. For his 18th, he doesn't know it yet. For his 18th, I've already accumulated 18 bottles of his birth year wine. Now, some of it will be balsamic, but whatever. Some of it will be good. I need to do the same for whiskey now, clearly, but maybe that's just a collection. He can have it when I'm gone. But
I think it's one of the things that we enjoy about whiskey, that, you know what, see if it does stay sealed and the provenance is intact and things. And if we never get around to it and we do shuffle off one day, the whiskey outlives us and it can be passed on. It does become a legacy. It can help pay for our coffin or do whatever it needs to do. It can become a gift for the next generation, whatever it is. That's a nice luxury for it to be. I think it's like a watch or a classic car or something.
Absolutely.
But if you get the ability to bring your son into appreciating what whiskey, how powerful it can be, but what it has to offer, how much of an emotional thing it can be, how much of a connectedness, a people, a community thing it can be, and the fact that this powerful alcohol actually has lots of kind of positive sides to it if it's treated with respect. That's my goal. I don't know if I'm going to succeed with my kids as well, but absolutely, if it does get to the point that the whiskey it was worth way more than the experience it's going to give in the glass, then somebody else can make it work for them in the future. Absolutely, I don't think anybody should have any guilt or any stress or anything about that. Anthony's bought, and Anthony, you're being super generous tonight, my friend. Collecting for investment versus drinking, looking at the investment bottles, having to talk yourself down from opening them. Dream Cask 32 is looking at me. Anthony, I know it's an expensive bottle. I've not even tried it. I've not even sipped from it. But the thing is that if it's something, it's a bit like my Brora fixation. If it's something that you feel that you're really going to connect with, I know that you're from Ireland. It's maybe going to be a big deal for you from that perspective as well. Maybe, I'm not going to encourage you to buy it, but maybe consider it. Maybe consider, I don't know if it pushes it too far. Quality over quantity. I don't know how much that Dreamcast is, but it's thousands of pounds. But it is that thing. It's like Scott and I with the Brora. We cannot justify the amount of money that cost for whiskey's sake. But whiskey's so much more than a drink for us now. And it's that sip of history, that sip of something that, even though they're opening Brora again, it's never going to exist. That's not going to exist again the way it was made back then. And that ability to just sip at that altar and know why people call it a legend in modern times, in a modern context. And just that fact that it's almost like an itch to scratch, right?
Look, I mean, there's a lot to be said for creating the specialness too, though. Like, you know, we can try and buy that. At the same time, you know, I opened, I wish I'd thrown the cork. I need to do that. That needs to be one, right? You open a bottle and throw the cork and that's it. We're finishing it. But I shared a bottle of Glengoyne 21 with a couple of mates on a rooftop in New York. And that's, you know, I mean, it's an accessible bottle, it's an expensive bottle, but you can create the specialness too. But to your point, if your man's thinking about a bottle and you can do it.
And it's within his means. And if it is genuinely not just the name of the cask is Dream Cask, but if it is a dream for him, and he said that, it's in myself, Roy, it's tempting me. Cheers, Anthony. Let me know how it goes, buddy. Cheers.
There was a couple of people, Roy, asking about the specifics on the cabinet. I would share, or rather, it's a standard IKEA cabinet. Brimness is the brand, is the Nordic name. But then I customized the angle, and I've shared on the Barflies website. If you search for me, you'll probably find it.
The Barflies is a Facebook group. Aquavitae Barflies, if you search on Facebook, that's the group he's talking about. If you search for post by Gregor McWee, he did share his tips, and I've got some additional pictures as well. Some of them weren't for public sharing. There were hammers and bits of wood lying about everywhere, and still not sure to commit to the size of it. Dribs and Drams has bought me a dram from Canada, saying, I can't spend that kind of dosh on a bottle. I can hardly afford to keep my channel going because of what this stuff costs in Canada. And I know that that's the thing. It's got such a regional effect as well. We've got different availability at different price points all across the globe, different taxes, tariffs, different distributions and supply chains, and it all has an effect on this. And everyone is saying, I would not have a problem of FOMO if I didn't watch whiskey tubers like Aquavitae. Everyone, my friend, I'm glad you're here. I do appreciate that I am trying to help everybody ease off on the FOMO a wee bit here. It's trying to be kind of healthy about all of this stuff. Buddy, are you able to stay about to the end?
I am. I've been signed off from daddy duty.
You've got a kitchen pass. Thank you very much, my friend. I look forward to pulling you back in a wee bit later. Always a pleasure to see you here, Gregor. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers all. Slanger.
What a guy. But he recognised what was happening and he put things in place to fix it, and they were effective. I have to say, sorry to Andrew Butler, I held up a sample and said it was a Ben Nevis. It was very pale. It didn't taste much like Ben Nevis. Now I've poured this other one, and this very much does. They both look similar, but one is actually an L, and one is, I get caught out with this on the blind tasting as well, and one is a 1. You can see they both look like 21, don't they? But this one is actually 2L. This is the 21. This is the Ben Nevis, and it's full on Ben Nevis. It's got that industrial funk going on. There's some sherry cask going on in here. Maybe even it verges on a wee bit of winey. I don't actually know what it is, but it's full on rich, powerful Ben Nevis. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying not only the whiskies have a cost, but proper good shelves do have a cost too. They last a long time too if you buy well. These are also IKEA units that I have here. I like them because they're open and they're nice and sturdy and there's space for most bottles, but you can't fit a Bimber or a Daft Mill. That's an easy thing to solve for most people because you can't really buy those whiskies. But there are lots of bottles, some Compass Box bottles, that Sia bottle I've got up there from Eric Waite here. Eric bought me that gift. These are all too tall. In fact, everything that's up there more or less is a bit too tall to fit in the section. So you have to be careful what you buy as well. But I have to say, it might not be this solution. It might be something else for you, a nice oak cabinet, a glass cabinet, some shelving, whatever it is. When you get the whiskies out in display, especially if they're lit nicely, they can look fabulous. It can really be a nice thing. My 2 cabinets of open bottles are in the dining room. I'm going to show you an image here of my collection pre the channel, of course. This is going back a number of years, actually. This is going back to probably just about the time that the Whiskey Rev and I got together. This is my humble collection back then. These are kitchen cabinets to me. You've got a top shelf here and a cupboard. Over here, I guess we've got some, that's a Yamazaki, but it's a Yamazaki 10, an old one here. I can't really tell what that is. Is that that's actually a Jura Prophecy hiding back there. We've got some Lagavulin, Glenkinchie. We've got various things kicking around in this cabinet. This bottle of Lecheg, this bottle here that I've been sharing tonight is in this picture somewhere. I can't see it right now. It's kind of hidden. Here we've got, again, a backup bottle of my Evergreen Lagavulin. There's something hiding in the back. I don't know if that's an Anok or something. Here's an old 1980s Kalila, some 1995 Lagavulin. That's a 40-year-old Strathyla that I accidentally hid from Seve and Scott when they were over here for an in-person vPub attendance. That's a Lefroy Cartius from Fisheel. I think that was from the 2010 Fisheel. Here's some Bemore, an honest statement Bemore Legend. That wasn't a very nice dram. Here's the old 40% Bunnahabhain. Here's that Tobermory 15 that I discussed actually with Ian McMillan last week. And here's a Cadenhead's Cask Isla. So this was my wee modest collection back in, by the Easter eggs here in this picture down here, you'll see some chocolate Easter eggs. I can place this as being somewhere in the order of 2000, and I think it's early 2013. It might be 2014. It's of that order. That's when that's from. From there, it moved into the cereal cupboard. All the cereals get moved out. From the cereal cupboard, I went out and bought a cabinet. I bought a second cabinet, and now I have these 3 cabinets in here as well. 5 cabinets, and I've still got whiskey on the floor. Yes, I can use the channel as an excuse. The good thing is, and I'm really looking forward to getting people back in the house again, the open bottles will get shared again. The good thing is I've got that visual cue, that visual reminder of what I have on hand, because I guarantee you I do not have the memory to remember what I have if it was hidden away. And I don't have the discipline, honestly, to manage something like a spreadsheet. Ryan Sutherland has spotted the Easter eggs and saying Easter eggs and whiskey win-win. Chris Pollack is saying I need additional room. Corey Clark is saying been a pleasure joining tonight for my second live. Loved hearing about the contrast and approaches to collecting. We'll wait till WhiskySanta comes along. As someone who's still so early on in their collection and whiskey journey, good to have you in, Corey. Good to have you back again. Andrew Pierce is saying, and a lovely selection of Easter eggs I spotted. Watchman 999 is saying, having Buna there is a true testament to your integrity. That's the old 40% Bunnahabhain as well. Stevie is saying, I made my shelves like Scott from Scotch Test Dummies. Black iron piping and building lumber. I think most of the house could collapse and those shelves would still be standing. Good for you, Steve. Ryan Sutherland is saying, rare appearance of a Bemore too. Absolutely. There's a couple of Bemores there because that was back in the day that I was enjoying Bemore. And Welsh is saying, holy crap, I keep that much in my toilet. That was a while ago. KiltedMoose is saying, Seve, there's that bottle. That's right. It was an accidental hide. I really genuinely didn't mean to hide it from you. Looks like chocolate under the scotch. Anyway, let's reach out to somebody else completely different, because this guy's a ball of energy. Anybody that meets this guy, he's just energy. He's such a positive guy to be around. But he uses that energy and he pushes it, he puts it into whiskey. And he is a fast tracker. If I was to kind of label the next guy, it would be a fast tracker, catcher upper. But to his friends, I don't think he's offended if we call him WhiskySanta, because he's a huge enabler for us as well. Let's welcome in another one of the Glasgow bottle chasers. He's a familiar face to you all, Craig Seve, and our friend Seve. How are you, Seve? He's in his evening gear. You're coming into us from a hotel. I know you're tuning in remotely.
That's correct, yes.
You've taken some travelling drams as well. Where are you coming in from?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Dundee on a wee kind of work tour, shall we say. Business essential, obviously. But yeah, so just coming in from Dundee. So I bought a few drams with me, and I thought sometimes I do don a wee robe when I'm having my whiskey. So I thought, why not tonight?
Yeah, and that looks like a hotel robe tonight.
It isn't, yes.
You're known to cut about in a robe for a whiskey tasting. Yes. I know that for sure. And can I ask, is the reason that you've got a Coquerin up there to try and curry some favour from the barflies after Coquerin Gate a couple of weeks ago?
It is indeed. Whiskey folk, please forgive me. I've literally.
The thing is that, so for anybody that wasn't tuned in at the time, we did a blind tasting, and Seve put the last of the lineup. One of his self-declared favourites, a Coquerin 12. But as I keep saying and reassuring Seve, that's the beauty of blinds. It's what it's all about. There's no disgrace. Based on the 5 whiskies he had that night, that was his least favourite in that selection at that moment in that time. Nobody blames him. We'll just see how many Coquerin Gate mentions we get in the chat tonight. Seve, you are a wee bit like Gregor in a lot of ways, but I would say that you're like, because of your energy, because of the effort that you put into it, because of the whiskey, I think you also believe that whiskey was something that was hidden from you for too many years, and now you've come in and you've just, this is amazing. You share it, you evangelize, you talk about it all the time. You're tracking stuff down, you're finding things. That means that you're able to enable other people to find things. You're all over the place with it. I mean, you are like, and I said to you today, it was as recently as, was it yesterday, in fact, or today, that I looked over my desk and I could see WhiskySanta coming down the drive with the latest acquisition. And it is a wee bit like that. But I'm going to share where I think that, and I know that we've talked about it, and I know that you've taken action. I'm going to share a picture of Seve's, let's say his original collection, his trio, let's call it, 3 very special bottles to him, including the first ever bottle he bought. And I'll share that with everybody just now. And we'll come back and talk about this in a second, Seve. But here we have on the left, we've got a 20-year-old Glengarry from a Douglas Lane bottling. In the centre, we've got the bottle. That's the cask, the 8687 Klein Leash, the 1995. And I know that you've tried that. We had that at the Epiphany tasting in 2019 with Scott and Bart. And on the right-hand side, we've got an old vintage bottling of a Chivas Regal, which is interesting. But if we look at what Seve's been up to in the last 3 or 4 years in whiskey, because you were up in Dundee, I had to reach out to the missus to send a picture of your current collection. Is this representative of Seve's current whiskey?
Yeah, do you know that's only one wing of the...
That's only one wing.
Yeah, to be fair...
I think you would have to declare that one of your problems is right now housing it, and we'll get onto that a wee bit. I mean, I don't mean to pop fun at you, but we have discussed this. This is an issue that you're having right now. You've over-accumulated to the point that management is your challenge right now. So let's go back. Sure, let's go back to these original 3 and ask, how did it all start? Where are we at now? And what's happening with it? Well, I'll keep this up on screen so you can talk about it.
Sure, absolutely. So this is what I call my kind of my holy trinity. But again, no disrespect with anything to do with that. But that for me, holy trinity of whiskey, shall I say? So for that, the bottle on the left, the Glengarry.
Sorry, Seve.
Yes.
I need to interrupt you. The barflies think that is actually a picture from your missus. It's not.
No, it's not.
Just,
No. In fact, I've not even
that
got
image. That is not Seve's whiskey collection. It's just a
I
tongue
wish
in
it
cheek.
was.
But we have seen, let's say, images and footage from certain areas of Seve's, wherever that is in his world, where he is kind of climbing over boxes to try and locate things. But so that was a wee bit of tongue in cheek. People are shouting, "That's insane! Oh my God, what's that? That's crazy!" No, it's a joke. I apologise. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
No problem. It has got a wee bit. Well, it got a bit crazy, but it's no longer so crazy, shall we say? But a little bit like Gregor, but not quite. Gregor's been very refined, and he's obviously stuck to his guns and stuff, and maybe not as disciplined, shall we say, in some ways as Gregor is. But so the Glengarry was the first ever bottle of whiskey I ever had. I don't mean like bought or anything like that. It's a bottle. What I would say, and what I said to you was that the two bottles here, I don't know if I will ever open, and it's not because I don't want to drink them. It's just they are so sentimental to me, and that is the only reason. Now I may do. But I'm not sure. I have no plans to do so. But they mean so much to me that's in my whiskey kind of journey. But the Glengarry was a prize from Freddie Laying for a tennis tournament that I won for one of my very dear late friends. He passed away, and we had a memorial tennis tournament for him. And I ended up winning the tournament with my doubles partner, and that was one of the prizes.
Very nice.
It's just something that is super, super sentimental to me, and even kind of thinking about it kind of makes me well up a little bit, because Bobby Prentice was such a great guy, and I really miss him.
Would this have been before your whiskey journey then this happened?
It was, absolutely. I actually have, I'm going to try and do a wee picture here for you, so to show you the whole situation, and this will be a Seve that you and certainly most of the barflies will not recognise. But this is a picture from the day. I don't know if I can get that to show you.
Oh, look at you, sans beard. I know.
So without a beard, looking slightly chubby. So that's us, and that's with our. So that's myself and my friend Alan. Alan's now.
Wow.
Alan's gone on to very big tennis things, should we say. Alan's now Jamie Murray's coach. So
oh, wow.
he's a lot better at tennis than I am, and yes, he did carry me a little bit to that title, shall we say? But
he's also the guy that you've got to thank for a 20-year-old Glengarry.
Exactly. Do you know something? But you've always got to return every second ball in tennis, shall we say? So there you go. So, at that point, so that was the very first bottle of whiskey that I ever owned or ever had. But having obviously Fred is a good family friend, and I kind of got a little bit more into kind of whiskey through him, and through this idea of kind of he did a few tastings at the club as well. But it wasn't probably until round about the same time as Gregor, almost, or maybe slightly earlier, but round about that time that I started getting really into whiskey and enjoying it and appreciating
2017.
it. 2017, yeah. And the bottle.
Try and pull your mic a wee bit off your.
Sorry. Off my beard.
It's maybe your beard, actually.
Yes, it probably is.
Your big Seve WhiskySanta beard there.
Yeah,
that's
apologies.
Not good. So the Klein leash as well. I think I know how the Klein leash came about.
Okay, so the Klein. I'll go from left to right. So the Klein leash, it was an epiphany whiskey for me, and something that really kind of changed my whiskey journey from a point of view that, like, when I tried it, and you obviously through yourself, and you were the one that put me onto it, that it really changed my view on my collection, what I was drinking, what I was buying, and it changed my whole viewpoint on whiskey. It just that there was something out there that I really wanted to explore, and it just exploded after that. That was something that just...
So this is, you and I have talked about this. This is you out there buying your, I like this bottle of Glenmorangie Santa.
Exactly.
I'll buy another and a backup of that, and I'll buy more of this. So just buying the kind of these things, and then suddenly you come across this, and you're suddenly hit with the concept of what a single cask is, what an independent bottler is. I knew that you obviously you knew about Fred Laying and things, and but the space that they occupied in the whiskey landscape you might not have appreciated quite as well. And the fact that you're talking about something from a distillery you might not have heard of from an era back in the 90s that you've never tried before, and suddenly you're like, oh, some lights come on.
Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. That vintage, as you can see probably from the picture, like that's a really bashed tin there. Do you know what I mean? That's come from a shelf that's been, or something that's been on a shelf for quite some time, and it's been located, and it's not as I say, it's no way pristine, but the stuff inside it is absolutely fantastic. That is a bottle that will be open and drunk. But the other one,
I've got one of those here too, and I think it was bottled in 2013 or something.
Oh wow!
I can't remember, and I can't really zoom in to see when the bottling is. No, maybe not actually.
Is it 2015?
2016. Sorry, my mistake. 2016. Okay. Not as old as I thought. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, that is the Cascade 687. I should know the deets from that off by memory. And what do we have here? An antique on the right?
Yes. So it's from what I can remember, that is the first bottle I ever purchased. And it also doubles as the fact that my first bottle I ever purchased was actually at auction. My dad is a retired auctioneer, so I've always been kind of interested in auctions and things like that as well, from a point of view of just finding wee kind of trinkets. And I think I maybe have the kind of collector's gene, shall we say. So I have in the past collected other things as well, other than whiskey. And one of my... I remember always kind of going through some of my stuff in the house when I was moving house, and found my 1990s ESO coin collection of the that you used to get for the last time Scotland got to a World Cup, and Scotland and England. It was a 1990 for Italian 90. It used to get these free coins in ESO. Anyway, but that Chivas, I digress slightly. The Chivas Regal was the first bottle that I ever bought. 1970s from a whiskey auction, and it was just the first bottle I ever bought. I don't know if I'll ever open that. That's kind of got a bit of sentimental value to me. I have another bottle which has been opened, and you've obviously very kindly also given me I think a 60s Chivas, so I'll be able to compare those lovely kind of coconut tones.
Right. Yeah,
it's great.
So if we go to the joke picture quickly,
yes.
You've been here, you've realised this, you've accumulated this mountain of whiskey. Lots of us have benefited out of that, Seve. You've traded, you've swapped, you've been very, very generous with your time. Anything I've ever come into through Seve has never had a button of profit added onto it. And I appreciate you very, very much for that. You are an absolute enabler. So every time I curse you, you know it's a positive thing, right? But then we have, and this is what I want to ask, the takeaway from Seve's habits and his collecting is suddenly we have, from this random blunderbuss approach, like a wee bit like Gregor, we have something like this curated from it. This is Seve has happened upon all of this collection, realized the folly, I think, of the over accumulation, and decided to get ultra selective. And what you've decided to do now is that you will indulge yourself, but only for certain passions in certain areas, because a bit like Scott, you've started to refine your palate. A bit like Gregor, becoming comfortable with being into sherry, not in peat yet. Scott has been through the peat. He's now exploring, but he knows his style. You are doing the same. You're coming out that other end now, and you've got this kind of much more surgical thing happening, not just with Daft Mills, but with things that Seve enjoys. Take us through the journey.
Yeah, so as you said, the one we talked about this again off air a while ago, that randomly at some point I was looking through my collection. This has open bottles, closed bottles, bottles that I like, for example, that I know that I want to drink, some that I want to save for drinking later, some that I want to share with my children, some that if I don't share with my children are very happy to give to them, whether they want to drink it, they want to drink it with their friends, evangelize about it. So there's so many wonderful possibilities that can happen with these bottles that are not currently opened. And I'm excited about that kind of vibe. If they don't like it, then there's always time to open them, touch wood, later on, or somebody will benefit from these bottles. And that is something in me that I really love. Now, as you know as well, I'm not just about that. I'm about the idea of sharing. I'm about being able to, if I buy a bottle, I'm able to pass it on to somebody else that can't get it or something like that. For example, we talked about Andreas and things like that. Andreas from Norway, who came over and was very it's very difficult to get Daphmil over in Norway. So having first time we met, and he said that it was very difficult, and I said, well, I've got a spare bottle, so I was very happy to pass that on to him. Cost price as it always would be, and then very graciously he ended up sending me a lovely sample of Rare Malt's Rosebank that was an absolutely amazing dram that I would never, because of my late entry into this kind of field, ever have been able to maybe afford or try. So and those amazing times, those amazing kind of community moments are what whiskey is all about for me. But to talk about
nobody, that's right, and your generosity is never. I remember when you were here for when you and Scott were here together live, you bringing over that ridiculously old grain. What age was that? Was that a 36-year-old?
40-year-old grain.
40-year-old Invergordon, Caledonian. There you go. And that was opened and shared, and as we can see, it comes out of every pore. You're not just in it for that. We know that you're very much about the community experience, the shared experience, and that thing that whiskey has. You felt it, the claws, digging into you. And I think that there's a bit of a bizarre evangelist in Seve. It's not the same evangelist as what I'm doing, but you're networking and making connections with people all over the place, and you're working out where there is something lacking, and you're finding ways that you can help them. Yeah. And what gets me about it is that there's no profit in this. There's no gain. That you're doing it, and you're putting these bottles in these people's hands and vicariously enjoying your experience through them as well. Is that fair?
Yeah,
or
that's actually perfectly put. For me, the enjoyment of being able to have a bottle that I can then kind of pass on to somebody else and see them be so excited to have it is as enjoyable as me trying the bottle itself. And there's been occasions where, some people may have kind of differing views on that and opinions. It's absolutely fine. But there has been occasions where I've bought a bottle because I know that somebody that I know either won't be able to get hold of it or will struggle to get hold of it. And I've thought to myself that, I personally maybe don't want this bottle, but I know somebody that does. And I'm not trying to do that to take it from somebody else, because I'm genuinely buying it.
A wee bit more wind up your skirt as well, since we're here. Before we move on to how you've changed now, actually is saying I find that I identify more flavors in whiskey when I'm sharing. Absolutely, actually, you might have been involved in some of the vPubs recently where we talk about that very thing. When you're in a group that feels comfortable with each other to express the experience, even if you're getting it wrong or you're missing slightly, as a group you come together to define it much better. I'll tell a wee story, a wee anecdote. I drive into the city centre to pick up a bottle of what was it? I was actually trying to Daphmil, the Ralphie Daphmil, right?
What was it?
Wasn't it? I think it was.
Was it either that or it was the Ardnamurchan? Was it not the Ardnamurchan?
No, I'm getting to that.
All right, sorry.
I go in and I walk into the Good Spirits Company and I stand in the wee queue and things, and it's all social distance and things. And I'm hoping that I've timed it right. I'm hoping that we're going to be there, and there might be a bottle for me. And if there isn't, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm so caught up in the Ralphie Daphmil thing that I completely forget that it's the day that Ardnamurchan is launched. And it's pointed out to me by Roddy and the Good Spirits Company, oh, the Ardnamurchan, we've got that here as well. And I just say, oh, yeah. And I continue talking and I forget. I go back later and I meet you in town. You're there. It just so happens to be here at the same time. And because it's limited how we can go into the shop, you stand next to my car with my two kids in the car, and wait and look after the kids while I go in to pick up my Ardnamurchan. And I come back out and they say, oh, literally the last bottle was sold to the guy who was just ahead of me in the queue. I said, I missed it. It doesn't matter. I didn't get it this time. And you said, well, here, take mine. And I said, no. You said, no, take mine. Don't worry. I'll probably get another one. And the reason I've got a bottle of Ardnamurchan is because you insisted that I take that one from you. So when I talk about meeting these people in whiskey, And when I talk about whiskey bringing out the best in people and bringing the best of people together, that's what I want people to see from Gregor stepping on here. What a great guy to be able to meet from afar. And we would never have met Gregor otherwise. Seve, I would never have been able to meet you if it wasn't for whiskey. And Scott and I have talked at length in the past how whiskey, specifically whiskey on YouTube, brought us together. These friendships with good, generous people, I'll never cease to be amazed and grateful for it, or be tired of being grateful for it. But tell us now, you've gone through this process of accumulating this massive whiskey, and now you're on this downslope where you're becoming much more surgical. What's changed in Seve's camp?
Well, I guess I got to a stage where obviously my dad's very much into his wine and things like that. So we kind of had a kind of unit, whatever, where we kind of keep our stuff. And the whole thing for me was I was like I genuinely feel like I'm like, in a way that Gregor said, I'm past some of the whiskies now. Not in a way that it's trying to be snobby or something like that, but I'm looking for different things. Fine. I'm just looking for different aspects. I feel like I've graduated in parts of my whiskey journey where I want to try new things. I want to seek out new adventures. And those adventures are not for me just about the taste, the bottles. It's also about the chasing. I love the thrill of being able to kind of talk to people, to be able to kind of make connections, I don't really see it as networking. I just see it as chatting to folk in a way, but I suppose it would be, but being able to talk to folk, being able to see what it is that they're doing. They're saying, oh, well, we've got this coming out, or da-da-da-da. And I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing, to try it, to be able to, but as I said, the sharing of that, or the being able to give samples, or divvying it up, or do a bottle split, or do anything, it's exciting, but it's a wee bit addictive, this idea of this rush now. When you saw the Daphne situation, now, I would never go and buy one at auction. For that point, I would always, every single one of those was found either retail
or a swap or a trade,
or a swap or a trade. So and that for me that's super exciting. Be able to kind of do that and be able to kind of I suppose it's a bit completionist in that respect, but that's the I narrowed everything down. I saw that kind of, again, it was another epiphany moment whereby I said, I've kind of gone a bit mental here, and I've apologies for that, but I've just ended up, I've gone too fast.
But you recognised it in yourself. You took, so this wasn't me saying Seve. This was you kind of taking stock of, I realised that a lot of the accumulation that's happening here are not appropriate for my tastes anymore.
Exactly.
I've moved on past these whiskies, or I've bought one too many bottles of these whiskies. I've now reassured myself that where I once thought I needed to buy this to have a backup, now I'm realising the next experience, the next epiphany, it's endless. They're coming. And so you had to pare back.
Yeah. I mean, who needs 3 bottles of LaSanta? And I mean, nothing. Do you know what I mean? I mean that with the greatest, again, respect to LaSanta. Glenmorangie.
Well, LaSanta floated the Seve boat at one point in time.
It did.
And you'd maybe still like to have a bottle on the shelf.
I still do.
You don't need 3. Mark Slinger is saying, Roy, first time I met Seve was at the original gathering in Glasgow. And he was stood at the door when we left, and he was handing out random samples to everybody. Awesome guy. I remember that. That was at the gathering. You'd bottled up all these samples, hadn't you?
Yes, that's right.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you remember that, Mark. Cheers for that shout out. So you've started to pare back then. So you're giving yourself a break. You're saying it's okay to sell these things. Mm-hmm. After you sold them, how many have you missed?
Almost none. So like I had made that decision to have like a cull, effectively. Like I went, and I remember speaking to you, and I remember speaking to Scott about it, and I was saying I'm going to have a cull because it's the right time, it's the right space. I'm fine in my head with it, and I'm going to go around the area and look at the bottles and say to myself, what is it that this is going to bring to me from a point of view of where is it in my whiskey journey, and what am I going to get out of it? And if I couldn't answer that question, then it went. It either got sold, it got traded, it get given to somebody, a multitude of things. Because I hate to think of the amount of stuff that just got kind of given away, in a sense of that like if my accountant had seen it, he'd probably gone mental. But at the same time, it's not about that. It's the fact that I knew that somebody else, maybe even like, for example, my cousin or somebody else who's maybe at a different stage in their whiskey journey, would appreciate it, and that might also be a gateway for them to get into and really enjoy whiskey as well. So for me, that there was multifaceted parts of it. Yes, some of it was sold, and as I said, I've got no qualms with that at all, because, as you say, sometimes the whiskey in the bottle will not live up to the kind of the cost of what the price that it now obtains. And it also means that you would be able to then go and get yourself something like this that you'll really enjoy and chase. And I was more into this idea of finding my single casks, and I love my independent bottles. I'm going to struggle to ever play is it a Speyside with you, because I genuinely don't go for original bottles. It's just that I love these independent aspects of finding these different flavors. And you've seen it on the kind of the Glasgow Whisky Club. I love being able to say, look, I found this bottle, you guys have got to try it, and being able to say, like, well, look, if you're not sure about it, here's a sample, go and try it, just like obviously you would do yourself. But that's super exciting. I love trying, like, my tastes have refined that I tend now to want to kind of go to.
That's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you, is that you've kind of fast-tracked, come in, you've gone crazy with it, very quickly worked out that because of how much you've tried in such a short space of time, being able to refine where your passion actually lies, and the stuff that's kind of that cookie trail of over-accumulation that you've had, being able to kind of say goodbye to it and not really regret it, and then focus the spending on curating that nice selection of daft mills that you have. And I know how generous you are with your daft mill as well. If I came over to, Casa Seve and said, I'd like to try a wee daft mill tonight, I think you would be more than happy to do the exact same and enjoy that thing. So it's that idea that we've got this awareness has fallen on Gregor. Awareness always has been there with Scott, right? Awareness has fallen on Gregor, and to an extent, awareness has fallen on you as well. You're not no bones about it. You're still going to go out there. You're still going to find the bottles. You're still going to chase. You admit that you love it. I think that's okay. I think that's amazing. I think it's just as much fun as anything. This is all subjective. We all do it in different ways, and you're just going to continue doing that. But now you're focused, and you're not going to over-accumulate the things that you're buying for the sake of FOMO.
Absolutely.
You've worked out how to kind of banish those spectres a wee bit, I think.
Yeah.
Buddy, I am grateful for you being around. I am grateful for the bottles that I am able to enjoy, simply because Craig Severin had the energy and the time and the inclination to chase them down and offer them to me. I'm grateful for your energy and the fact that you're around here, and I'm grateful that you don't seem to complain too much about me referring to you as WhiskySanta. But yeah, buddy, are you able to stay about till the end?
I am indeed, yes, Roy. Yes, I am indeed.
You're holed up in a hotel, and I loved a comment that I saw earlier on, and I think it was from Scott. I was trying to track it down. He said the reason that you're in a hotel in Dundee and patching in remotely is so that we can't bully you into you opening those daft mills.
There you go. He's caught me. That's what it is. Those ones are very special to me, as you know, and that's kind of my kind of the things that I do go. As I said, I've streamlined down to kind of my three kind of favourite.
I think those were by the wax seals. Those were single cast daft mills, right?
Yeah.
So those are. I mean, the scarcest of the scarce when it comes to lowland whiskey, I guess.
And it takes a lot of kind of bottle chasing to even kind of get even to know where they are and things like that as well. So
yeah, exactly. I haven't even seen one. I guess I'd have to come over to your house to see one of those.
Well, you never know. One of these days, these things will. As I said, there is every.
It would make a nice flight. It would make a nice flight.
It would make a very nice flight. It would indeed. But yes, it would. But I'm really enjoying, as I said, streamlined it down to things like I'm really enjoying my Imperial at the moment as well, and there seems to be a real kind of glut of casks of Imperial being released, and it's at a reasonable price for a closed distillery. Obviously, Clem Leash and Daft Mill, and those are the things that I really focus on. for the ones that I'm not going to have as a, well, I have to say Kilkerran as well. I'm loving my Kilkerran, even though probably the last blind didn't say so, but I am absolutely loving my Kilkerran. And
only some of us hold it against you. Andrew Pierce would say La WhiskySanta.
Yeah.
Jimmy Jazz is in. Oh, can we? I was hoping that Jimmy would be in. Were they in urine sample bottles? That's right. You famously handed ones that look like wee urine sample bottles. Mark Slinger, Seve the Alchemist. Remember the evening he did that. Okay, I'm going to raise a wee glass here. Jimmy raised or you put a post on Instagram today, and he shared what we were all doing a year ago on the 11th of March. We took the trip down to London Whisky Club for the closed whisky event. The last time that any of us were together for a real live in the flesh tasting event, and then that Friday we were together in Glasgow, and Jimmy eventually went home for lockdown the following Monday, and that was a year ago. Let's raise a wee glass to friendships that have been forced digital and remote in the last year, and hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. Jimmy, it's nice to see you, and thanks for sharing that post with us today. Cheers.
Cheers, Jimmy.
I can't wait to be in the same space as everybody again. I'm a wee bit worried that I've turned into a wee bit of an agoraphobic in the meantime. Anyway, buddy, hang about in the background, coming back and join us again. I'm going to bully you into you playing a wee game. Is it a Speyside? Not because you're trying to win, because you're trying to win coins for folk in the chat.
Absolutely. I'll do my best. Thanks again.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks, Craig. Thanks.
Cheers.
Seve, our WhiskySanta, one of the most generous guys that you'll ever meet, and somebody that's had to kind of go through that process of working out how to manage what's happening in his whiskey collection. Mood to Move is saying, Whiskey La Santa rocks, always good hearing from Seve. And he's got a wee purple hat next to his Kilkerran. Mood to Move, I wonder if that's a new name. Good to have you in, my friend. Sheila is in Whisky Central saying, what are Seve's 3 favourite distilleries? He was just about to say, oh, sorry, did I cut him off? Can probably answer that it's Daft Mill. I think he's got a fetish for Kleinleash, and as he admitted there, Imperial. You'll be back on in a wee minute, Sheila. I might have cut him off, and I apologise if I did. And Jimmy Legg is saying, I think Seve might be on the right side of karma. And Sid Martin has said, I was a beneficiary of Seve getting an Ardbeg CR drum for his brother, and we swapped for some lovely DL bottles. Generous gent Seve. Absolutely, Sid. And it's good to see you in as well, my friend. Anthony Dunn is saying, lovely vPub tonight, Roy. Would you rather a Bimber Richard Batch 1 or a Deanston 2007 12-year-old? CS Signatory, which would you choose to drink, Roy? Deanston 2012, 12-year-old cask strength Signatory, interesting. I love the Richard Bimber, I really did. It was far too easy to drink. I love that Richard thing. Isn't it interesting how much I've connected with Richard casks? The Richard Kilkerran 57.1 from 2019, the Talisker 8 from 2018 was that? The 2018 Talisker, I think special releases was Richard Bourbon. I think the Richard thing, when it's done well, it has something that seems to work with me. So maybe I would go that route, Anthony. I don't know, not knowing the 12-year-old cask strength Signatory. And Jimmy Jazz is saying cheers. Thumbs up, please, everybody. Listen, this is a very different vPub tonight. It was a different theme. Wanted it to be about collecting and about the community as much as possible. I always feel that I never get to hang out with you guys as much as I actually want to. It's tricky. But it's really wonderful to have you all here and hanging out with us. What we're going to try to do, and I don't care about the time, is we're going to have a quick wee game of Is It a Speyside? Going to try and do something different. I don't know why I'm trying to do it. I just thought about it just before we went live tonight. It might be an absolute mess, but I think that's okay too. It's worth trying. If you want to play along, everybody in the chat has a chance of guessing along. And if you're first to guess, you get yourself one of these wee exclusive sniper coins, these little glass toppers that can sit on top of your Glencairn and keep your whiskey intact. Scotty S has bought me a Dram. No comment there, Scotty. Just bought me a wee Dram. Thanks to you, my friend. Cheers for your Dram. If you've got a comment, drop it in and I'll try and pick it up. Cheers, Scotty. But we've also got Menno waiting in the background, very patiently going to host a Menno quiz for us tonight. Because it was community focused, I thought it might be nice to bring in Menno. He's assuring us that it's going to be easy. Now, if anybody enjoyed when we talked about There's Always More Whiskey, the Matt Mackay broadcast that went out about a month ago. Menno came in and did probably the most legendary, brutal quiz that we've ever had for a quiz at the end. And he's suggesting that tonight there might be some of that, a taint, but most of it is going to be a wee bit easier. I don't mind anyway that it falls. Of course, I still want to make a pass mark, but we'll see how it goes tonight. Menno's waiting in the background. I'm going to invite everybody in. I'm going to get them all in at the same time. Reach out to Scotty, who's been waiting patiently. Good to have you back, Scott.
Hey,
Menno, Belgium, brilliant to have you, Menno. Always
Right.
amazing. You'll come in and host a wee quiz for us, buddy. Gregor McWee from out there on the West Coast. And we'll bring in Seve as well, who's derobed now. He's
Indeed.
wearing his barfly uniform. Fantastic.
It's roasted.
Oh, give me a thumbs up if you're up for having a wee tongue-in-cheek, no stress, not so serious game of Is It a Speyside? Now, keep your thumb up if you have a bottle on hand that you can play Is It a Speyside? Okay.
Pick a shelf. Pick a
Aye.
shelf, Roy.
We've got two guys with bottles and we've got two guys without. I'm going to suggest that just for this week, I get to sit out. Scotty,
Oh, no.
you've to guess Menno's bottle. Seve, you've to guess Gregor's bottle.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm going to put Gregor
That's
and
tremendous.
Seve in the back room. They can't speak. They can't speak to each other back there. I suppose they could use chat, but I would see it too. So it's all legit above board, and I'll be able to sit in here with Scotty and Menno as they play. I won't play along, and I certainly won't try to guess. I'll leave it all up to everybody in the chat to try and win a coin and see which one of these guys are able to win themselves a sniper coin. Good fun, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see how it works
Nice.
out.
Wow.
I'll see you in a second.
Do it. Yeah.
And Seve,
Come on,
I'll see you
Scotty.
in a second. Okay, what I'll do then
Come
is
on,
I'll bring
Scott.
the breakdown for you. You guys are not handicapped like me. You get the full 10 questions. Anybody that's not seen this before, Menno has a bottle off screen, and Scott has 10 questions to try and guess what that is. It's a core range single malt Scotch whisky, widely available and recognisable everywhere. Is that correct, Menno?
That is correct.
Okay, wonderful stuff. In that case, Scotty, I will try to keep score, and
Okay.
and I'll just let Menno try to guide you, and I'll try and keep my eyes on the chat as well. Good luck, Scott.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to start with the age-old question. Is it a climb leash?
No. Sorry.
That's okay.
I would have loved it. I would have loved a snipe. I think you can consider, because the next question would have been, is it
Yeah.
Clynelish 14? And you would have
Yeah.
absolutely killed it.
Okay,
Nice one. Now you're handicapped.
One
buddy.
day though.
I know, it's worth a punt, I suppose. Okay, so is it a Highland?
Yes.
It's a Highland, okay. Right, okay. Is it Eastern Highland? Sorry, is it Eastern Highland?
No.
Okay. That was a kind of swithering one, so I'm kind of guessing it's maybe...
Well, we use the Dalwhinnie as the centre point, don't we? Is it east of Dalwhinnie? Is that what you're asking? Menno's
yeah.
Google Maps. So this is super helpful for you.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
So it's not east of Dalwhinnie. Okay.
Sorry, it is. Yes.
So it is. Okay, right, that's cool.
I think it's...
Okay, so I'm kind of guessing it's not too east and it's not too west. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. Is it? So can I ask? Is it North Highlands or sorry? That can't work. Is it a Lowlands Highlands? If you know what I mean.
No.
Okay. Is it north of Clynelish?
No.
Okay.
I think you're in the right ballpark though, Scotty, if he's having to check.
Not north of Clynelish. It could be anything. Is it? It's not going to be that far away.
You're narrowing in.
Okay. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. Is it a tomatin?
Yes.
Oh, off the
Well
rope.
done.
Scotty
Well done.
Monroe is off the ropes and punching. Unbelievable.
Just when you said it wasn't east, maybe not west, and maybe in between. Okay, so I'm going to go. I'm going to ask: does it have an age statement?
No.
Is it the Tomatin Legacy?
No.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay, oh my god, is it the Tomatin Cast Strength?
Well done.
Oh, beauty.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Beautiful. So let's see.
Well played.
Thank you very much, Menno. Thank you.
That was an excellent bottle to have as well.
Wow.
An excellent save, Scotty Monroe. You must feel
Yep.
relieved after that.
Well, I can't really take any credit when the kind of swithering about east or west or it's kind of in the middle. I just thought,
yeah,
that kind
You
of
were
line down.
nowhere. You were nowhere. Scott, nice
and
work.
then out of the
Nice
blue,
work.
the tomatin question, and I was like, oh yeah, he's got it
Yeah.
now.
Incredible. Is it tomatin? Super. What a save, Scotty.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'll let
Thank
you go
Menno.
and bask in your glory in the background, and I'll bring in Seve and Gregor and see how they get on. Oh, Seve, you've got your work cut out for you now.
I do. That was going to be my first. I was knowing Gregor. I thought to myself, I'm just going to go straight for a guess of tomatin something, because he's obviously a tomatin guru. But I'm probably going to have to change it.
That'd have been amazing.
I
Yeah,
know.
Gregor is a tomatin. Yeah, now Gregor wouldn't have changed if he has reached for a tomatin. It might. Yeah, you've still got the original bottle there, Gregor, right?
Yes. Yeah. No. I've stuck to my guns.
Okay, excellent.
I'm
So
trying
the
to use
same.
my forensic ability here to see whether he's bluffing.
See now the trouble is, it's Gregor, so you're trying to second guess.
Uh-huh.
But now you never know. Let's see how you go. Good luck, Seve. Ask away when you're ready, buddy.
Right, straight off the bat, like Scotty, is it a tomatin 12?
No.
No.
Oh, how good would that be? Imagine the scenes. Sorry, I've ended up moving my camera here. I need to do it. So, right, is it a Speyside?
Aye.
Oh, is it a Glen?
Is he on the timer, Roy?
Nope.
Yes.
No time. The timer's for me. It's the handicap for me, isn't it? So
It's a Glen.
Ooh. Is it a teenager?
looks like Andrew Pears was the first for the tomatin cast strength.
No.
It's not a teenager.
Okay.
Good question, though, Seve.
Thanks very much. Is it? I was going to say, oh my goodness, I'm now.
Have we got a region?
Struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a Speyside.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Seve, I love you, but I really hope you don't get it.
Oh my goodness.
Now, bear in mind, he picked it for me. He thought he was playing me.
Oh, jings. I'm beginning to think that I'm not very good with my Speyside whiskies. Is it 15 years old? Oh, I just asked.
Oh, it's not a teenager.
Well, that counts. He asked it,
Of
Roy.
course, that
Roy,
counts. That does
Roy,
count.
the book says
No.
he asked it.
Yeah.
No.
No, that does count. No, that does count. That's not fair. That's me just being stupid because it's late at night. Okay.
We usually break it down by, is it a Diageo job?
Yeah, I was going to say, because I
four.
haven't played this game very often. So is it one of the big four producers?
Diageo, Pernod Ricard,
Pernod Ricard.
Edrington, or Grants.
Yeah, hang on. Oh, man. Don't think so. You're putting me on the spot.
There's Gregor who asked if I was on the timer a minute ago.
Oh. Wait. Who is it? Who the big four again?
Diageo, Pernod Ricard, or Chivas Brothers, William Grants, or Edrington.
Oh, shite. Sorry, excuse my language. Hang on, I'm just checking. I've got my history here. No, I don't think it is. Sorry if it was, but no.
I'm trying to think of what you like as well.
I bought it just for today.
Is it Glenrothes?
Oh, he's trying to snipe.
Yeah, I'm going straight for it. Yeah, you don't like Glenrothes. What am I talking about? That was stupid.
Actually, there's one good one though. That's a bottle that I bought that went past me. I've got it and I've not opened it.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of my all my Glens.
Roy, he's down one, by the way. You've not moved the number down.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Are you writing down your guess, Roy?
I don't have a guess. I should be playing along. I suppose I should be, but I've got some sniper coins. I'm enjoying that the night off. So we've got a Speysider, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a teenager. It's not owned. You don't think it's owned by Diageo, Pernod Ricard. You don't think it's one of Grant's, which would be Balvenie, Glenfiddich, Canny. And it's not an Edrington, so it's not a Glenrothes or a Macallan. So that's
we're narrowed down. We've narrowed it. Surely, right. I'm not very good with my geography up in Speyside. That's the problem. So if I asked you if it was east or west or something, you could tell me anywhere, and I go, "Oh yeah, sure." Still not know where it was.
So you know it's not a teenager, but you need to work out if it's younger, 12 years or younger, or 20 years or older. I think.
Is it a non-age statement?
Negative.
Oh, so it is a non-age statement. Oh my goodness. I was going to say, I'm not even sure whether, like, this is, again, shows my complete lack of knowledge with distilleries.
Is it a Glen?
I've got a Glen.
Suggest.
I've got a Glen so far.
Thanks, Chris Brown.
Is it from the North Speyside, or would it be north? I would say, is it north or south? Am I allowed to ask that? Say, is it north?
Well, if you know the answer to it, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to fling him a line. It's either Glen Grant, Glen Alachie, Glen Murray, Glen Farkless.
Well, see, I was going to say Glen Farkless, but I was a wee bit worried that was a Highland malt. So, like, I didn't.
No, it says Highland malt on the label, Seve, but it's a Speyside. It's a Speysider.
Right.
And it's the same as Macallan. Macallan put Highland on there, but they're a Speysider. As a Speysider, of course.
This is showing my complete lack of knowledge. Let's go for it. I did think, right, I'm going to say, is it a Glen Farkless?
No.
Oh, he's bandit.
He's the beer drubbing. It's a bad man.
Glen Grant 12. I'm sniping.
No. If you look behind me, you can see what's in shot. It might...
I can't really see.
Let's have
a look. I'm struggling here, boys. Let's have a look.
No, it's hard to see.
It's tough, man. That is tough.
I say that. I've taken it out the cabinet, so I'm throwing you a curveball.
I know. Right. Glen.
I'll say this much. Somebody said it in the chat.
Oh, I'm not even on the chat. I've tried to. I'm trying to look at the map.
I think you're down at, because you just went for a Glen Grant age statement. You're not sure it's not Glen Farkless. So you're down at Glen Grant. You're down at Glen Alachie, maybe Glen Murray.
Is it? Well, has Billy Walker worked there? There you go. There's a bit of something.
Yes.
Oh.
So it's down to. That's it. You've got it. You just need to.
Well, I've got to say it's got to be Glen Alachie then. So
you know it's not the 15.
Glen Alachie 12.
It's like pulling teeth. Oh my God.
I'm not even putting my hands up for that because that was painful. That was
Anthony Dunn said
painful.
Redbreast 12.
Me as well. They may as well have been. That was awful. Sorry.
I
Apologies.
think, you know what's going to happen is that I think that that's made everybody realise that there's actually a lot of effort in playing a game of Is It a Speyside? It's actually pretty hard, and it's kind of like, you know, the strategy of kind of trying to take whatever it is, cut it into halves each time. And I know that it would have been gallus if you'd just sniped and gone straight in. It'd have been amazing if you'd been able to snipe it like Scott's attempt at a clean leash.
Childbirth was easier than that, right?
Yeah, it's true. Do you know what the thing is as well, that I've just realised how bad I am at Scottish geography, and how I need to get kind of on the distillery map.
There, Seve, is another thing that having this passion for whiskey is going to help you with. It's going to help you in your own country's landscape, which you've previously been completely disconnected from. Anyway, I can't believe that we're not even going to make the 3-hour mark tonight. This is incredible, but we will have a quiz at the end because it's going to be a treat. Menno, I know how late it is for you. Are you okay to do this tonight?
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay, my friend, you share your screen and we'll pop it up and we'll get the wheels on the quiz. I'm strapping in. I'm part of the team now as well. I'm going to be participating in this. Everybody, if you can grab a wee piece of paper and put an A, B, C on it, so that we can all hold it up at the same time. I keep forgetting to get people to do that. And you can commit. Sorry.
A piece of paper, Gregor. Not another Dram.
Oh, wait, you need paper? Oh.
His handle is Gregor Time for a Dram.
It's always time for a Dram. Do I need paper? I need paper. Can I use my phone?
Or you can make shapes with your fingers if it suits you.
Oh, all right.
Can I just say, I love the fact Gregor doesn't even have to get up to get a bottle of whiskey. That's fantastic.
This is dangerous. There's a reason this is in a basement, I tell you. That number I worked out on what you can consume in a year didn't take into consideration of being this close to the whiskey.
James Morgan is pointing out, he was asking, I thought the teens were out of it when he was talking about the Glenallachie. I have to say that the 12 for me, 13 is the start of the teens. Maybe that's not a common opinion, but depends on your definition or your interpretation of what the teens are. Anyway, we got there in the end. We were brutalised. I don't know who won that in the chat, but somebody already got a Glenallachie. I'll pick it up on the replay if nobody else has been able to let me know how it's gone. Anyway, are you ready, Menno? I can see that you are. Let's pull this in, boys. Let's wish each other good luck with this. I've got that amazing contraband in my glass here.
Beautiful, fantastic. Good luck, everybody.
vPub quiz at the end, 11th of March by Multi-Mission, dedicated to a vPub moderator using a vowel for his last name.
Yeah, and he's not even in tonight.
Steve A was in tonight.
Was he?
Yes. And I know him as a big follower. He was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still in here now, but I think he's going to be super pleased to. And he's not just a vPub moderator, is he? He's a YouTube moderator. He's a moderator on so many channels right across. But Steve A, this is dedicated to you tonight after the let's say the words that were exchanged after Menno's last appearance as quiz host. Menno, take it away, please.
Okay. Question 1. The Gaelic word kill in the names of both Kilholman and Kilkerran translates to what in English? Is it A, water source or well, B, village or community, or C, church or chapel?
Good start, Menno.
Yep, good start.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Perfect Menno pitch to begin with. Are we all feeling confident? Menno, you count us in when you're ready, when you feel good about it.
Yeah. Feel free to show me the answers.
A bit of a guess for me. Oh, where am I?
C. A lot of C's.
I think we're all C. We're all at C.
Absolutely. It's church or chapel. So the kill would come from cella or cella in Latin, and that means cell, which then was used as chapel as well.
Can I just say that the only reason I know that is because on the way to Kilholman, the road was closed, I had to go around Loch Gorm in the car, and we got lost. I ended up at a church. So that's my rationale. That's how I figured that one out.
Well done.
Did I tell you that Kilkerran's my favourite whiskey in the world ever? Just in case.
Especially the 12-year-old, Seve.
Especially the 12-year-old. Magnificent.
Kilkerran Gate. Brilliant, Menno. Good start. Loads of people get that in the chat too.
Question 2. Last year, Johnny Walker celebrated its 200th anniversary. For the occasion, they released a whiskey called the Legendary 8. And the 8 refers to what? Is that A, the 8 generations of the Walker family involved in the business? B, the 8 color labels Johnny Walker has released throughout the years? Or C, the 8 distilleries that contributed to the blend?
Anthony Dunn is 100% and he's off now. He's got 1 out of 1. That's him retiring for the night. I think I'm feeling the same because I am guessing here. I'm going to make an educated guess at this one.
I'm going to pour another Kilkerran, if I'm honest. I think I might need it.
That was the right decision, Seve.
Right. Thanks.
When in Dundee.
Indeed.
Do you like Kilkerran, Seve?
It's not bad.
Stevie is here, Menno, and he's saying, I'll admit, I was salty at your last quiz. We know, Steve. Quite a few of us were, buddy. I'm ready when you are.
Yep. The answers, please, gentlemen. So we've got an A.
Mine is C. I need to make it that.
C, an A. And
C.
Gregor's, I can't
B.
really make that out.
B, sorry.
C.
Well, Johnny Walker was established in 1820, and the blend consists of 8 distilleries that were already up and running in 1820. So Oban, Blair Ethel, Lagavulin, Tinnick, Pror, Cambus, Port Dundas, and Carsbridge. So answer C.
Excellent question again. Of course I'm going to say that.
I think my internet's going to cut out in about 3 questions' time, just by the way.
You're struggling at the
tunnel.
start, Gregor. Carry on, my Belgian friend. Carry on, Menno.
Okay, question 3. On average, each person has around 9,000 taste buds with a multitude of taste receptors on each, but 80% of these are programmed to pick up mainly which flavor?
Wow.
So 80% of our
Can I-
tasting system is programmed for what? For which flavor? Is it A, sour, B, sweet, or C, bitter?
Can I just say I don't see the ASAT logo on that question?
Menno, can I get my biology textbook out the bag?
80% of these are programmed to pick up mainly which flavor? Wow.
And if you think about it, there's a perfectly logical explanation for it as well.
Okay. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna guess. I'm
3
ready.
guesses.
Okay.
So we got a B, a C, and a C. Oh dear, Gregor, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it is bitter, and
Oh,
that,
that's all right. I got it.
of course, has to do with evolution. Indeed, poison. Poison would often taste bitter, so that would be vital to pick up that flavor. Well done.
James Alsop is saying bitter to avoid poisons, maybe. Bitter as it could be poison, I think, says Andrew Pears. And C, because bitter is poison. Jimmy Legg, everybody
Well
thinking
done.
the same thing. Just
You
to
never
rub
go-
salt. Just to rub salt. Salt wasn't an option, right?
You never go for 3 C's in a row, though. You can't guess 3 C's in a row. That's just
Well, we did.
That's something I've learned from Roy, to not bother about the order of the multiple choice answers.
Yeah.
Now
Okay,
I know.
to that.
Question 4. Which claim about John Jameson is not true?
Oh, are we nod to Irish?
A, he was Scottish. B, he was a teetotaler. Or C, he owed his career in whiskey to his father-in-law.
So this is a statement, and we're trying to find what is not true.
Indeed.
Wow. I admit I'm guessing on. It's a 50-50 for me, though.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. There has to be an ASAT question beside every or ASAT symbol beside every question.
No. The asset question is coming.
Oh my god! Good
Scott,
question for
Fine
me.
so far.
Scott,
How
I'm
are
still
you?
trying to work out if it's not true. Does that mean it is?
Just Gregor,
Yeah,
just
Two
choose.
of these claims are true.
Find
One
the
is not
lie.
true.
Find the lie.
Throw a dart in it.
Ready when you are?
Okay.
Okay, gentlemen.
Oh wait, no, I'm going to change
We've
it.
got
Wait. I'm going to go.
C, B, and Gregor's up for a
B.
a B. Well, I can tell you, a lot of Irish will reluctantly admit that he was indeed Scottish,
Yes.
and at some point he married a girl whose last name was Haig. He married John Haig's daughter, so he owed his career in whiskey to his father-in-law, and
Oh,
he
I got it
was
wrong.
not, as far as I know, a teetotaler. So the answer was B.
Damn.
If it had been
Got
C again, Menno, I would have thought your computer was broken. And that's the
No,
only
no.
one that you could have used.
Whiskey Central is saying he is Scottish and his father-in-law was the one who had the distillery. He married into it. That's Sheila keeping us right. Sheila, you got that one right. Well, I don't know who did get that one right. Who got it here? You said B, Gregor?
Yeah, I got it
Well
wrong.
Okay,
So did I.
question 5 is
Oh, no,
the
that was right. Sorry.
picture question. Question 5 is a picture question, fairly straightforward. Which distillery would use this logo or coat of arms on its packaging on the label?
Is it a
Would that
Speyside?
be A, No Can Do, B, Dalwhinnie, or C, Ben Nevis? And then things got quiet.
Wow.
Yeah, none of us know. We're just all guessing. Every one of us.
Absolutely. I like your image questions though.
That's a really good question.
No. What's,
A really good
wish
question.
Wish I'd paid attention in Latin.
I wish I'd paid attention to bottle labels. I just don't.
Wow.
Just look really hard is what I would say.
What's that Latin for? What does that mean in Latin?
In fact, I don't even know if it's Latin. Scotty, don't listen to me.
I can't even read it. Regard.
Oh,
Okay.
great question. Great question.
Boys,
Right,
what do we
I've got-
have?
I think there's a clue in the logo. I think if it might be totally
So we
wrong.
got a C from Seve, an A from Scott, and a C and an A. I'm afraid I need to disappoint you. The mountain might have been a bit of a banana skin, but it was indeed Dalwhinnie.
No. That should have had a banana skin there.
It
Dalwhinnie.
should have. That's
They all
what I'm
should
going
have.
for.
Menno, I've always liked you. I've always liked you, but I'm on the fence
Yeah,
now.
I'm again not making any friends, but I
Can I just say 5 questions in? Menno, this is a fantastic quiz. Seriously. No, it is. Seriously, it's great. I'm really enjoying
Let's
it.
see what we say off air afterwards, but right now,
No.
we'll say fantastic. It is it's excellent. It's excellent. It's inventive. It's creative. It's difficult. B, Dalwhinnie, unbelievable. Anthony Dunn is saying, I used to like whiskey, now I feel a fool. Jimmy Jazz is frustrated, but he's on 4 out of 5. He's beating me.
Wow.
I'm on 3 out of 5. Where are you at the halfway point, boys? Gregor?
2.
2. Sevy's on 3. Scotty?
2.
2. Okay, well, Jimmy Jazz, you're doing better than the rest of us, so you don't need to complain too much. Anytime you're ready, Menno.
Okay, question 6.
Come on.
Between 1964 and 1981, Milton Duff released whiskeys called Mostawi, or Mostawi. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but
Mostawi,
why
yeah.
was that?
I know this.
Was that A, because another company held the rights to the name Milton Duff? Was it B, it was a whiskey distilled in Lomond stills rather than traditional pot stills, so they wanted to give it a different name? Or C, the name Milton Duff was considered dull and unconvincing by then owners Hiram Walker?
Menno, did you say this was easier than the quiz before?
This is where we crank it up a notch.
What's another C between friends, eh?
The thing is, though, right, it doesn't
That's
matter if you're
wild.
wrong or not. It doesn't matter if you're wrong or not because we're learning. Every question, we're learning something new.
Love the wisdom. That's what I
Thank you.
say. Fantastic. And then Graham Fraser's asking, did Menno say this was an easier quiz? I'm ready when you are.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So we got a B, C, a C, and a B splitting the crowd. Roy, you said you know this one, and you're absolutely correct.
Ah,
Darn it.
You know,
Okay.
if it wasn't multiple choice, I wouldn't have got there, but I'm grateful for it being multiple choice.
that's my internet. Yep, I've used up my internet. Right, got to go. See you guys. It's been a pleasure.
You going through a tunnel?
You might get the next one, I think. Question 7. What's a gorda? Is that A, a Spanish grape variety used in the production of sherry? Is it B, a huge 700-liter cask? Or is it C, a locking device used in big warehouses to help keep barrels stocked?
I think I might know this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take my limited knowledge of Spanish and take hazard a guess here.
I once had a whiskey.
Aye.
I once experienced a gorda, and it wasn't pleasant. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it is Spanish for, well, we won't say in case it helps, right?
So, you guys ready to commit?
I'm
Yep,
ready.
sure.
Okay, we've got a B, a B, a B across the board.
Bees. And I have to say the lounge is lit up by bees.
Indeed. Now, gorda, I think, means something like the fat one or something like that. So, it is a
Well, specifically,
Yeah,
I got that as
700
fat lady, yeah.
fat lady. And it's mainly used in the American industry for marrying whiskies. So
I once had a Springbank from a gorda cask from the SMWS, and it was the most sulphuriest, nastiest whiskey I've ever had in my life.
You love the sherry, don't lie.
That
Yeah,
sounds
still drank
epic,
it.
Scotty.
I still drank a lot. Drank the lot under protest.
Yeah. Right up Seve's street, though.
Andrew
Yeah, that
Butler
sounds
for
epic.
7 out of 7.
DJ Scott Dog is saying everyone's a winner in this quiz. I like that idea. It's absolutely true. Chris Pollack is celebrating his pass mark already. Well done, Chris. And Jimmy Legg is saying, I am a gorda. Carry on.
Gorda.
Okay, question 8. In 1930, Aeneas MacDonald published his book Whisky. One of his numerous complaints and grievances towards the industry was what? This could be a banana skin, as you might have noticed. Was it A, a lack of transparency and the use of meaningless words on the labels? Was it B, a lack of availability and inconsistent distribution? Or was it C, not being able to visit distilleries?
Excellent question.
Great question.
Wonderful book. I know this one. Very grateful. Well, I think I know it. There is a banana skin there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know it too, but yeah, the banana skin just gives me the fear right off the bat.
The fear.
It makes me doubt myself even more.
It makes
No,
why the banana
go
skin-
with your gut feeling.
Where's Sheila saying, I'm reading this book right now, just started it. I also hit a pass mark already. Sheila, you're coming on strong, tremendous. Going to find that a very interesting book to read, and it's the words and the language of the time as well. When you're ready, Menno, call it.
Absolutely. Go for it. So we've got a C from Gregor, an A, another C, and an A from Roy, indeed. Again, splitting the crowd, 2 of you are right, and it was indeed a lack of transparency and use of marketing flannel on the labels. So I think it's in the last chapter of the book is just basically has a list of complaints regarding the industry and what it's doing wrong. And indeed, even 90 years ago, he was complaining about using meaningless terms like old and rare or very special and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
Menno, was one of his complaints this quiz?
No.
DJ Scott Dog is a man after Seve's heart. He's saying yummy sulphur. Jimmy Legg is saying celebrating 4 out of 8. He's in for a chance of a pass mark. Chris Pollard saying Aeneas MacDonald sounds like Ralphie. Absolutely. But the thing is that Ralphie had a predecessor 80 years before Ralphie started. saying the exact same things. It's like we're still going through the same loop. Say the words, just tell us the truth, especially in the modern era. Jimmy Jazz is saying, great read from Charlie's recommendation. Excellent stuff, Charlie McLean. Second from last. Let's have it, Menno.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Question 9. The Imperial Distillery got its name from where?
Wonderful. I've got this one too. Confidence.
A. It was commissioned by Buckingham Palace to become the official supplier to the royal court. B. It was founded in 1897, the 50th anniversary of Queen Victoria's reign. Or C. It was built by Seve's brothers with a specific intention to produce a lighter profile whiskey for the colonies in South Africa and Australia.
We can't have another C, surely.
Seve, you must know this, being a fanboy.
Well, again, this kind of limits me to my Speyside knowledge, I'm afraid, at the moment. But I'm going to... With Menno's quiz, I've got my head buried in the sand, and I don't really know what's up and down.
I love Imperial, but I have no idea.
I think I know. I'd be surprised if I get this one wrong, but there is a slight... This should have had a banana skin on it. I'm ready to go, though.
Yeah, sure.
Ready?
B from Roy, B from Gregor, B's across the board.
Seve's following the crowd now.
B's across the board. Well done, chaps. It was founded in the 50th anniversary. Queen Victoria.
Almost chose C.
I'm no longer participating. I'm just going to sit back and learn. Dirty Dog is saying, holy crap, you need a master's in Menno quiz taking to be a pass score on this one. Anthony Dunn is saying, clearly, I know nothing about whiskey. Still like it. Now you're killing me, says Rob Schroeder with the ass hat emojis. Come on. Yes! We're in. Magic.
Okay.
Now that's what it used to have a huge crown. And it was all about Queen Victoria Imperial Distillery. It had a crown above the main building as well. I knew that it was a nod to her, but the Buckingham Palace thing in there was a bit of a banana skin for me.
Mm-hmm.
What a great whiskey it is, by the way. What a great whiskey that is.
It is. Isn't it always the case that these closed distilleries, we always lament, oh, isn't it great whiskey? It's great whiskey. It's a shame that it's closed. Why did they close it? But that's because we're able to taste it 30 years later when it's been sat in lovely refill barrels for all that time, and it's had a chance to mature into something wonderful. Anyway, Menno, sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Here comes the ass hat, right?
Here comes the ass hat. The total malt production capacity of all 25 Glen distilleries is what?
Oh, Menno, you creative little Belgian.
You worked that out, Menno.
Yeah.
Is it a teenager?
With a little help from...
This is a total dart.
Is it A, about the same as that of all Diageo's malt distilleries? Is it B, about the same as the production capacity of the 10 biggest malt distilleries? Or C, is it about the same as the combined malt production capacity of Pernod Ricard and William Grant?
He's not even giving us figures. He's not even giving us figures. He's going to work
honestly, just put the blindfold on and stick the tail of the donkey. It doesn't matter. It's all good.
This is absolutely just.
I'm not even going to
guessing.
Stress about this. I'm going to pretend it's blind tasting. I'm going on my instincts.
Blind guessing all the way. I wouldn't have gotten a clue if somebody asked me.
It's too hard to work out. Yeah.
I haven't even looked at the answers. I've just picked one.
I haven't either. I'm going to just put this right here.
C from Scott, A from Seve, a B from Roy, and A from Gregor.
I'm alone here with a B.
One of you has got it right.
Oh.
Even though take 500,000 liters, it's 114 million liters per year.
Punch in the gut right at the end. I finish on
KiltedMoose.
10 this evening, which is 2 better than my last Menno quiz. So I'm improving. How did you get on, Gregor?
Sorry, you're breaking up. What?
Right. Okay.
What? I got 4. I didn't pass.
Did you learn anything? I suppose is
not at all. No. I learned never take part in the quiz.
Seve, did you learn anything? A pass mark. Scotty, did you learn anything?
I got 7 out of 10, so I'm quite happy.
Well done.
Excellent. You and I as well.
7 out of 10. That's amazing.
7 out of 10.
What's 5 out of 10 in a Menno quiz is a 10 out of 10. She's saying, woo.
Can I just say, like, a 7 out of 10, there's a few guesses in there, let's face it, so,
That was, I mean, I have to say,
Great quiz.
Bring on the hatred.
mildly less brutal. But isn't it fascinating to have somebody else to come in, making up the questions and getting creative, coming up with different ways to do the. I remember Jimmy Legg celebrates the time that you brought in the different grains and asked which one was barley. Using a coat of arms for a distillery and things rather than a typical scene or a distillery that I would use. That's what it brings. It just brings a different spin on it, and it means that I get to sit back and have a wee glass full of my own medicine, so to speak. Menno, what an absolutely superb set of questions again, buddy.
Thank you.
Don't listen to all the inevitable flack that I celebrate you taking. But it was brilliant. Cheers, Menno. Well done.
Cheers, Menno. That was fantastic. Thank you very much, mate. Brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to pour one wee special dram. This is from Sid Martin, and he sent me up a Macallan 1990, a cask 1243, American Virgin Oak, September 2020. I have to say that if this is a 1990 Macallan from a Virgin Oak cask, we have to think that it's a re-rack, right? There's no way that you would have a Macallan and Virgin Oak from.
Is that a quiz question?
Yeah. September 2020. I've poured it into my my wee inter whiskey glass from Dockfest. You might remember these, Seve.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we all get back. Gregor's got the Aquaviti one on the go. You star. A nice wee snifter. It looks like the SMWS snifters from Seve.
I've got an old kind of thick Glencairn, like a kind of hardy. Is it old Paltley one? But it's kind of rubbed off. But it's a hardy Glencairn. It's kind of thick.
Yeah, maybe one of the original ones, right? That were slightly different.
Yeah.
First couple of years.
It's my favourite one.
Menno, you're not sipping tonight, are you?
No. I had a
Because
tasting
you're
last
too busy
night,
staying up so late with us. It's nearly 2 a.m.
and I had a tasting last night, so I'm just sticking to water for now.
Good man. Listen, Menno, I'm so grateful for you coming on, sticking your head on the line for being a host for the quiz again for us tonight. It's a pleasure, buddy. It was brilliant to have you on and have such a great quiz. You're welcome anytime. Scotty, thanks for bringing your savvy insight and your knowledge, your canny pragmatism. Seve, thanks for bringing whatever scene that we find you in. Thanks for bringing your energy. And Gregor, thanks for your humour and coming on and admitting, and not only admitting your failures in the past, but how you've come to rectify them. And I have to say, as you sit there dead centre of this scene with your symmetrical shelves over your shoulder, as Scott pointed out, within grabbing reach, it looks resplendent.
Almost biblical, like the sea.
Life's no bad, lads. Life's no bad.
Can I just say, Gregor, before you go, it's like the best vending machine in the whole world.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's just the sweetest.
I'm afraid
The good thing is it's free.
you don't
You
need
just keep
credit
hitting it.
cards rather than coins, I think.
Yeah.
I'll jump in and
change
say
only.
goodbye to. I'll jump in and say goodbye to all the barflies. Listen, guys, stay in the background if you can. I know it's very, very late, and I'll raise a wee glass with you offline. But thanks for stepping forward to give me a bit of community support and insight for this topic tonight. It's always brilliant to have you there to reach out to, and it's a pleasure to see your happy faces here in the vPub. Cheers, boys. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you, Roy. Cheers,
Cheers,
man.
Roy. Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Slange all.
Till the next time. Thank you, Menno. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you, my friend Gregor over in Oregon. And Seve, WhiskySanta, thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. Fantastic, wonderful stuff. I should have known better. Look at the time; it's well over 3 hours. Unbelievable. Again, I will do timestamps for anybody trying to pick it up in the replay. And I'm really, really grateful that there's still so many of you hanging out with us at this really, really late hour. Next week, I'm excited to bring you an Irish-themed thing, of course. It's the night after St. Patrick's when we go live next week. So I'm reaching out to Barry Chandler, and a fellow evangelist, let's say, but somebody who's in the realm of Irish whiskey. And Barry's going to come in and just talk to us about where Irish whiskey is right now, where to look for experiences in the engagement, do a bit of myth busting on Irish whiskey, and just celebrate Irish whiskey generally. Last year we had bourbon nights, we had English whiskey nights. We're covering things outside of the Scotch, outside of my comfort zone, let's say, in the weeks ahead, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you next week for an Irish session. Anthony Dunn's bought me another dram to say the quiz felt like a battering tonight, lol. We always knew it was going to feel like that, but hopefully a bit of a pleasurable battering, if it is such a thing. Mashburn is saying, what a great episode. Thank you very much, Ross. So good to see you, and my friend. I hope you and Jill are doing well Whisky Central Shayla saying, thanks, Roy, and cheers, all you beautiful whiskey folk. Thank you to you as well, Shayla. Wonderful to have you in. Helen is saying, thanks to the boys for another great vPub. Slancha one and all. Great quiz and a 9 out of 10. Wow, Helen, that's amazing. I never even checked to see who'd beaten the scores tonight. I'll have a wee look at that afterwards. Did anybody manage a 10 out of 10? I don't think I saw any 10 out of 10s, but a 9 out of 10's got to take the laurels tonight. It's an incredible score for that tough quiz. I'm scrolling up now. Oh, wow, Andrew Butler. My goodness, Andrew, 10 out of 10. I like Menno quizzes. So there are laurels to be handed out, and it is to the man who sent me all these amazing samples that I've been enjoying tonight, and it's Andrew Butler, you star. Well done on your 10 out of 10. That's a quite incredible achievement, by the way. Jerry Miller is saying, this isn't a quiz, it's a Survivor episode. Jerry, you're not wrong. Andrew Piers is saying, great fun, multi-mission quizzes, even if they are brutal. Absolutely. Dirty Dog is saying, I thought the tariffs had been abolished temporarily. I just get taxed. Taxed in the quiz. Jimmy Legg is saying, please ask me more Macallan questions. Jerry Miller is saying, so we get a Menno quiz break now, right? Listen, I appreciate everybody has taken that exactly as we intended. It's just meant to be good fun, and it is good fun as well. Night Roy saying, Anthony, lovely vPub, fantastic streams. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for all your generous drams tonight as well. James also been saying, great lineup. Thanks again. Helen and I like Menno quizzes, saying Andrew Butler. Alice saying, thanks, Roy, for another quality evening. Dirty Dog is saying, cheers, Roy. Awesome to see the vPub live. Great to have you in, Dog. Good to have you here, my friend. That was a great night until the Menno quiz, says Graham Fraser. Cheers, Roy. And Lindsay Holman is saying, good night all. Thanks, Aquaviti, for another soul replenishing vPub. Lindsay, I hope you have got something out of it tonight. It was a wee bit self-indulgent for me, just getting to hang out with my friends and kind of broadcast it to the world. That's kind of what it feels like right now. It's been a brilliant night for me, and I hope somebody got some insight and thought about just kind of this thing that we are all so much enjoying, that it can become something we've got to keep in check from time to time. It's not meant to be preachy, it's meant to be sharing a wee bit of wisdom, and I hope that there was some wisdom gained for some of you tonight. Steve Atkins is saying, thank you, Roy and friends. Hoyt is saying, great guest tonight, Hoyt, you star, good to see you in. Jerry Miller is saying, good night, everyone. Good night, Roy. Ronald is saying, 10 out of 10 on Menno's quiz. Is that even possible? Andrew Butler proved that tonight it is absolutely possible. Corey Clark is saying, thanks, Roy. Great night. Thank you to you, Corey. Thanks for stopping by again. And Rob Schroeder, you star, is saying, thank you, Roy. And on that note, I can reach out. I can let the end credits scroll. I can look forward to welcome you all a week from tonight. And in the meantime, say thank you all so much, so very, very much, for having the stamina to hang out with us for another vPub tonight. I'll raise this glass and say you're all very dearly loved. And until next week, Slancha. Ah, 30-year-old Macallan. Wow, it's delicious. Thanks, Sid. Cheers.